All right, welcome in to Half Point Per Podcast. We are live for the NFL Draft, and I think we're gonna have already an audible early on here with the Aaron Rodgers stuff that we're gonna get to before the actual draft gets started. But Dalton, how you doing tonight? Wearing the Mahomes jersey. Chiefs, I don't think are picking tonight, but we'll see. You never know with the Chiefs and trading up. But how's it going, man?
It's going good. I'm wearing the jersey of the best draft pick in NFL history, the great Patrick Mahomes. It's been an interesting day. It seems like we had a slow start to this offseason, and we decided just to release all the news today so we couldn't keep up. From Tebow playing tight end, Trevor Lawrence, to Mason Rudolph getting re-signed.
I think a part of my soul died when someone said, think Taysom Hill when talking about Tim Tebow's potential role. It's like, really? Okay.
Please don't do that to us. I don't need another Taysom Hill quandary in the NFL. No, but I'm excited. You know, around this time last year, there was so much uncertainty. At least now we know these guys are playing football in August and September, albeit looks like we're adding the 17th game, which I'm not a fan of, but we're getting an NFL season, which I'm excited for. And we get a draft in person, which means I get to see Roger Goodell kiss at least one person on the forehead.
And the Jaguars are on the clock, 9 minutes and 10 seconds on my delayed YouTube TV stream from anybody who may be watching. But yeah, you mentioned we do know NFL season is going to go off, hopefully with a lot fewer hitches than last season. But it still happened last season. It's happening this season. One thing we do not know is where the reigning MVP is going to be playing football. And if you're watching this, I am sure you have seen all of the stuff going on today. Starts out with Schefter reporting that, well, Rodgers is basically told the Packers he's not coming back. He's not reporting. He has no intentions of playing in Green Bay. And, you know, I get it, right? Like, it starts off about a year ago at this time. You mentioned Roger Goodell getting booed in his basement, turning on the noise. I think there are plenty of Packers fans booing from their basements when they took a quarterback in Jordan Love, trade up for him, and then took a running back in A.J. Dillon. And those are two guys now, Rodgers and Aaron Jones, that they have either brought back for more years or, in Rodgers' case, trying desperately to extend. So from a team building perspective, not good moves. If you're Aaron Rodgers, you don't like them taking a quarterback in the first round. You especially don't like them trading up to take that quarterback. And then also you just have the added wrinkle of things ended pretty poorly in their last game of the year. They lost a very close game to Tampa Bay. You could easily make the argument that an impact rookie may have literally made the difference in that game, because you think of the Scotty Miller touchdown in the first half. You think of Kevin King on that play and many others getting burned in that game. You think of the selling for a field goal instead of the touchdown when you need a touchdown, so that if there was friction between coach and player, it probably was greatly exasperated by that ending, and as well with the front office. Dalton, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Well, and you just add to it, you let Corey Linsley walk in free agency, and he gets a pretty standard deal for a great center at the Chargers, and then you sign Aaron Jones to a 4-year, $48 million deal. $12 million a year would have easily covered Corey Linsley's salary. And I know it's fine having Aaron Rodgers have another weapon, but the issue is A.J. Dillon was there. They drafted him. It just looks like the front office is clearly preparing for a future. And Aaron Rodgers,
exactly. They didn't draft like a team that is in Super Bowl contention. They drafted like you'd expect a team in the top 10 to be drafting, with an early second-round pick and an early third-round pick with an eye toward the future instead of what they need to put them over the top right now. You're exactly right.
Yeah, and so at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers has gotten very little respect. Brian Gunthurst really hasn't made any moves for him. This wide receiver market was incredibly deflated. Will Fuller went on a 1-year deal. Kenny Golladay was really the only guy who got a good deal out of everything. Even guys like Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne were out there. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith signed with the same team. You feel like just on a player perspective, they would have loved to have played with Aaron Rodgers. There was no
Corey Davis out there too. I don't remember what he signed for, but it wasn't like crazy money, obviously.
Yeah, and there were just no rumors linking the Packers to any free agents this offseason. The Aaron Jones signing was even a surprise to most people. And then, I showed you the tweet earlier, but only 2 players the Packers drafted last season played in the postseason. One of them was A.J. Dillon, and he played a very minimal role in that Tampa Bay game. So you can't blame Aaron Rodgers for thinking about his legacy and knowing his shelf life is coming closer to an end and wanting a shot at another Super Bowl. When you give a team an MVP season and they don't give you anything in return over 1.5 seasons.
And you do just have to wonder, we will probably never know this unless Rodgers flat comes out and says it. You wonder what the impact is of watching Tom Brady, number one, beat you, and number two, win the Super Bowl when he leaves New England. He was a free agent. He wasn't traded, so it's different. But he leaves New England. He goes to Tampa. Tampa builds that team completely around Tom Brady, does whatever he wants them to do down there, bringing in guys left and right. And you see that, and if you're Rodgers, you're probably like, I want that too, right? Like, why wouldn't you? Especially, he's got 1 Super Bowl. It's not like Brady, who's a completely made man. Obviously, he's won a Super Bowl, so he's a made man. But there's a big difference between being a one-time Super Bowl winner, especially when that came, 12 years ago, and winning a second time before your career is done. And he's 37, and he could be the host of Jeopardy for all we know in 2 months or 2 years. So we don't know how much longer he'll be around at an elite level.
Well, and I don't want to draw a straight line to it, but one of the reasons Tom Brady left is New England stopped giving him offensive talent. I mean, the best he was throwing to was Julian Edelman, at least. Aaron Rodgers has Devontae Adams, but it's a very similar situation. And the Denver talks make a lot of sense, and so do the 49ers talks, because they're 2 teams that are geared up to win now. And I think that him leaving makes a lot of sense, because you don't think he has more than 3 years of a good series behind him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll get to a little bit more, unless he gets traded pretty early on in this draft, which is entirely possible. We'll, I'm sure, get back to Aaron Rodgers here and there at some point tonight. But the Jags have, we're about 3 minutes or so on the clock. We're assuming Trevor Lawrence, right? Just Dalton, I'm curious. I know neither of us are going to pretend to be like NFL draft experts. Like, we've watched these guys a little bit. We've read other smarter people and listened to other smarter people talk about these guys. But just in your opinion that you formed watching them doing all of that, how convinced are you that Trevor Lawrence really is like this once in a decade, like best since Andrew Luck type of prospect? Because I like Lawrence, but I just have never seen that when I've watched Clemson play. And I watched him quite a bit because I played in a lot of big football games when he was in college.
Yeah, well, it's difficult to evaluate him because Trevor Lawrence quite literally played some of the biggest games in college football over the last 4 years repeatedly, on end. He was one of the most highly touted recruits in the last 20 years of the NCAAs. And what he was really good at was the deep ball. And that's something that translates really well to the NFL. But in addition to that, he's mobile and he can move around in the pocket and he can move outside of the pocket, which is something that we're seeing correlates very highly to NFL success.
You know who he reminds me of, and he's better. He's obviously a better prospect, and he will definitely be, I'm almost positive, a better NFL player. He's like a very rich man's like Colin Kaepernick a little bit to me. Like, he runs, there's a lot more designed runs for him in college than you might think just on the surface. You watch his pro day, you see the can arm, and that's really what people talk about. But he's a little bit more of a runner than people say. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I like him. He's the number one pick for sure in my mind. I'm just wondering if maybe if we're all getting a little bit carried away in the group thinking that he is like, once in a decade is high praise, obviously, and he's got some holes in his game. He will telegraph stuff a little bit. And, we saw him make some big mistakes in some big games playing good defenses. And I think that can be attributed to, maybe some of that stuff where the first read's not there, or he's really staring down the first read. And that comes back to bite him. But the thing you like about him and some of the other guys in this class as well, but especially Lawrence, is all of his shortcomings, they're not physical. They're all things that he can improve at. Because, like, as far as the physical traits go, he can make every throw. I already mentioned he's a better runner than probably people realize because we talk so much about the throwing and the arm strength. And yeah, he's obviously a great player. But I was just curious what your thoughts were because he has just gotten so much hype, and I don't know that's just lofty praise.
Well, and what I do think could work out in his favor is the coaching staff in Jacksonville. Urban Meyer is not a proven NFL coach by any means, but he is somebody who's developed talent at the collegiate level. They did bring in a very veteran offensive coordinator in Darren Bevel. Say what you want to say. He had a very bad tenure at Detroit when he was there, but Darren Bevel knows the NFL and has acclimated talent to the NFL before. And normally, unlike Justin Fields and Trey Lance and even Wilson, the quarterbacks who come in and start immediately who are successful have to have some type of resume behind them to have played multiple games. And Lawrence has those, which might translate to quicker on the field success than some of these other guys who are going in the top 10 picks as well, or who I assume will go the top 10 picks.
Mm-hmm. And Lawrence did just go number 1. I kind of forgot that he's not actually in attendance, which is kind of a funny note that the number 1 pick is not there. Obviously, totally understand it. You will see Trevor Lawrence now number 1 on the little scroll on the bottom to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So good for Jacksonville. Very funny that it all came down to the Jets and Sam Darnold getting red hot for 2 games to make this all happen. So I'll be interested to see how it goes. And you're right. I'm interested to see that coaching staff. And, Bevel, he's a guy that Russell Wilson has really credited for his development early on. So, I mean, we'll see. The Jags still have a long way to go on offense as far as putting guys around him. He's got a couple nice weapons, but the offensive line, and you mentioned the unproven play callers, it'll be a process. I'm not sure. I don't know. We don't know where the other guys are going yet, obviously, but I'm not convinced that he's going to be the slam dunk top rookie quarterback this year. I think there might be other guys that go later who we like better for fantasy football this year.
Well, I've seen people, respected people at even PFF putting him above guys like Stafford.
Really?
Yeah, for fantasy QB.
I guess he does have the running floor.
Well, and he does have good weapons around him. He has, James RB1 Robinson, Laviska Shenault. Marvin Jones is there, and you say what you want to say. He is a deep threat through and through. I know he's older, but he's still going to be able to provide that. His skill set matches well. Trevor Lawrence and DJ Chark, who seems to be hitting the weight room and getting big this offseason.
On Muscle Watch, gained 10 pounds.
Muscle Watch. Oh, my favorite time of the year is when everybody gains 20 pounds.
Okay, Trevor Lawrence 1. I guess. So, okay, number 2. We're still the draft really still hasn't quite started yet. Everybody thinks that we're gonna get. I want to mix his name up. I almost said Lance, not Lance. Wilson. I almost said Lance. Don't want to get anyone excited. Wilson, it seems like, is going to the Jets. We will see. But Dalton, I did want to use this opportunity before any of these other quarterbacks have gone outside of Trevor Lawrence. Let's plant our flag. Who is your second favorite quarterback in this draft?
Ooh. This is tough for me because I think a lot of it depends on landing spot. Mm-hmm. Trey Lance is somebody who has all of the physical tools. He's just not played against top talent.
And you want to talk about a complete unknown. The fact that he hasn't played against top talent, coupled with the fact that he didn't play last year because at the FBS or FCS season didn't happen in the fall, and it's happening right now, and he obviously opted out for good reason right now. So he is about as unknown as you can get as a top 10 quarterback, top 10 pick as a quarterback in the draft.
Do you want to give a quick shout out to listener and one-time podcast Speaky Eli Berry seems to be in the chat. So what's up,
Speaky?
Eli?
That's it. I would go with guest. I would go with special guest, a friend of the show, all of those things before Speaky.
I think we're going to call anybody who comes on the show Speaky now. But no, I really like Trey Lance, but my ideal spot, I don't think this is going to happen, would be Atlanta for him. As an immediate NFL player, and I want to talk about this, and I'm sure we will, as Justin Fields, the guy, is great. but I don't understand where he's fallen down draft boards from a guy who was top 3 to, I mean, Chris Sims had him at 32 to the Bucks. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I really like Justin Fields. He has that dual threat, and he played in the playoffs with broken ribs. The guy is a competitor.
Yeah, he definitely showed a lot in the college football playoffs. No doubt, he was playing through a lot of pain. I will give a shout out to Eli for a couple comments over here. First, he says Trey Lance is Cam Newton with less accuracy, more power. He is a very good runner. I think he has over 1,000 rushing yards in his career, in his basically one full season. He didn't play that much as a freshman and then played one game as a junior. I don't know. It's hard to keep track of how all the FCS stuff worked out with COVID. Eli also says, I'll give him league champ. I'll give him that one. And he also says we are his official feed for the draft, at least for right now. So Eli, hopefully we can keep you updated. As of right now, the Jets still have about 3 minutes on the clock. We're assuming Wilson. As for which quarterback, I'm torn. I like Fields a lot. I was actually watching a good segment on him on ESPN today, talking about his release and that maybe being part of the reason why he's dropping. Dan Orvalowski, don't want to butcher his name too much, but he did a nice breakdown where he showed the release of all the top guys, and then Fields, and his is slower. It's he brings it down further. So, and that type of stuff matters to a lot of teams, which could be part of why he's dropped in the eyes of a lot of teams the way he has, or at least seemingly has. We'll see. But I think I'm still going to take him because I think a lot of the questions about his game outside of that, it's mostly he plays very deliberate with the release, but also just with his reads and with stuff like that. And it's he really just he doesn't have to go through his progression very much because that offense is such a wagon. They run so much good stuff too. On top of that, great coaching, that he just doesn't really have to do that type of thing. And I heard the comparison that a lot of his shortcomings are pretty similar to the stuff that Deshaun Watson had to work through. And remember, he did have to work through some stuff. He wasn't great. People kind of anointed him and were excited about him a little too early as a fantasy guy. And he was good, but not great. But once he got it, he really got it. And if that's the same thing Fields can do, because he's got almost Lamar Jackson type of speed, not quite, but not that far off. I don't think he's super athletic, got a great arm, very, very accurate. So he's probably, if I had to pick a second guy, the one I'm most excited about. And to be fair, probably the one I know the second most about, because obviously we talked about Lance and then Wilson. It's not like BYU was primetime TV too much. So haven't seen too much of him either.
Well, speaking of the devil, the pick is in, but it's Wilson. Wilson has gone to the Jets. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I will say about Wilson is the one game that was competitive against Eastern Carolina. If you watch the comeback BYU put up, Wilson made some really incredible throws. It's just really hard for me to fall for the guy. He played against a really good offensive line too. 2 of those BYU guys are projected to go in the 3rd or 4th round this year. And he just didn't play against any high level talent. And
their schedule got kind of reshuffled with COVID. They lost some of those typical USC, maybe UCLA, some of those West Coast teams they might play. Obviously, those teams just weren't playing non-conference games. So kind of bad luck there. And as you were thinking about earlier, to say a great offensive line on top of playing bad competition. We didn't really see him under much duress from a scoreboard standpoint or just on a play-to-play standpoint. He most definitely will be if and when he is the starter for the Jets at some point this season.
Yeah, well, he's definitely drafted to be the Jets. He's going into what everybody thinks is going to be a Shanahan-style offense. Obviously, the head coach of the Jets comes from the Shanahan system. And it's exciting, but that offensive line I think it's still going to grade in the bottom third of the NFL. Playmakers are all right. We already mentioned Corey Davis. You have Denzel Mims, Jamison Crowder. Most likely a running back is going to go at 24 or 18 to them. But
yeah, I don't love that either, but that's a conversation for another day, because I don't know if we're going to make it to pick 24. We'll see how long this draft drags out.
Yeah, and for anybody who wants to hear any of our other takes, we'll probably have a podcast up next Tuesday or Wednesday about our
sometime
rookie
next week for sure.
reactions. Yeah. But no, Zach Wilson's exciting. He's young. I think any of the guys other than Mac Jones who are going, I would like to see sit a year. Mac Jones, I think, is more NFL ready, but I also think Mac Jones his ceiling is substantially lower than anybody else.
Patrick Doherty tweeted, Zach Wilson is not old enough for the coronavirus vaccine. He does look very young. If anyone saw the picture of him going around today, I had seen him before, but he is very clean shaven and looks like he's about 15 years old. I'm tweeting this out right now on the Half Point Per Podcast Twitter account, so go over there and follow, and we'll be putting stuff out here and there on some of these guys. But per PFF, Zach Wilson was the highest graded quarterback for zone coverage this season and the second highest accurate pass percentage at 59% on throws past the first down marker. So accuracy was a strong suit for him this year. Obviously, we've already said it. The offensive line was great. He didn't really have to throw off platform very much. We think he can do that. That's what people are excited about, right? Is this guy can throw off platform. He's not Mahomes, but he can kind of do some funky stuff with his arm and arm angles and whatnot. I've heard, I'm curious if you've heard the same thing from people you follow and listen to. I've kind of heard Tony Romo as like a best case for him, which, hey, Tony Romo, pretty good if you take out the playoffs in his career. So I think if the Jets know, or if they knew that's who they were getting at 2, you take that, but we'll see. They've got to put some guys around him to help him out more than they helped out Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I've heard Tony Romo. I've also heard from guys I don't really trust, Patrick Mahomes. I know Patrick Doty was one of them, tweeted every time we hear Patrick Mahomes comp, take a shot tonight, because any guy who's mobile and throws at a weird angle suddenly becomes Patrick Mahomes these days.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's exciting. I'm not going to comp him anything more than a upside pocket passer, but we'll see.
It's interesting. Just looking back, they have it up on the screen right now. The Jets' first-round quarterback history. Their most recent 2, Mark Sanchez and Sam Darnold. I've heard people say that those guys were both better prospects and more highly thought of than Zach Wilson coming out. I'm curious if Wilson was not the guy at 2, where if it would have been Lance or Fields or whoever, where he would actually go, because it doesn't seem like I haven't really heard anybody say he's their second favorite quarterback in this draft, but obviously that's where he just went. So the Jets clearly think that, but like nobody else, he's been nobody else's number 2. So I'm curious where he would have gone if not New York.
I mean, yeah, I'm not sure who really was in on him other than the Jets, at least this far. But then again, we already knew the 1 and 2 picks, so no teams were really bothering to evaluate those guys to the extent that others were. I will say, if you were doing, a best ball league and you were trying to get a little cheeky, Corey Davis, Zach Wilson, and I think probably Travis Etienne is who I would project to go to the Jets, at least in my ideal situation, would be a very, very cheap stack. And that defense, the defense is not good. I mean, they're going to have to pass a lot. They have an offensive.
Here we go. They're going to have to pass a lot.
Hey, those calls were spot more right than they were wrong last year.
I've got the Athletics Beast. I don't know if anyone is a subscriber to the Athletic who's watching or has seen this, but they put out a draft guide called The Beast every year. That's like 600 prospects deep. I will read the overall takeaway from Zach Wilson, and then we can move on off the Jets and to where the fun really begins with the Niners, who are on the clock, and that is where the draft really starts. He says, overall, Wilson doesn't have an ideal body type, but his natural accuracy, off-platform skills, and ability to make great spontaneous decisions translate to any level of football. We shall see. Number 3, the 49ers. Oh, Dalton, you have something you want to add there?
No, I don't. Honestly, it's not exciting to me. I don't care to talk about the Jets. This is really where the draft starts, and I was just going to comment. I took the NFL 40 minutes to let us get what we want, and they wonder why viewership's an issue.
You mean get the 49ers on the clock? Ooh, the pick is in. I haven't seen any spoilers on Twitter yet, though.
I haven't seen it yet either. Ooh. Mike Clay said, "Wow!" So whatever it is, it's exciting.
Yeah, I've got a column with Shefty and Rappaport and Field Yates. So I think no one must know the pick yet.
I see people joking that the 49ers are still fact-finding about who they're going to draft.
Oh, my God. That's the thing. It's like there's no shot that they traded up and didn't have a guy in mind. Maybe they were deliberating between two. Maybe someone came up and changed their mind. But when they traded up, they had to have had a guy in mind because they gave up a lot, which is what you do when you trade up, especially to number 3.
Well, and I think that's what happened from what I've read is they went and watched. They were locked in on Mac Jones. They went and launched Mac Jones. Suddenly they weren't. Everybody's seen the clip of Mac Jones missing a deep throw and Shanahan.
Oh, it's Trey Lance.
Oh.
So they didn't go Mac Jones. At least that's the alert I got from Sleeper. I haven't actually seen it on Twitter yet. I don't know who put that out there.
I haven't either, but I'm trusting Sleeper. Yep, it's Trey Lance.
Well, okay, the Schefter tweet. New San Francisco quarterback Trey Lance's psychological tests for the 49ers were, quote, off the charts, per source. The 49ers considered him the smartest quarterback in this draft class.
Well, and one thing I will say, and I didn't see a lot of talk about this, is during the Black Lives Matter protests we saw last year, Trey Lance took a very vocal position and led a lot of protests in North Dakota, where I would gather the political opinions he had were not as popular.
Yeah, to say the least.
And I think that does take a lot of courage on his part. My concern with Trey Lance, and we talked about this earlier, but we can really get into it now, is I just don't think he's ready quite yet in the NFL. I think he could do with a season of not playing. And maybe they do it. I mean, they haven't officially traded Jimmy Garoppolo, and it looks like through a lot of their talk, they're not going to. But we'll find out because it's very interesting. And more importantly, if he starts, though, he is walking into a very good offense. I'm curious what your take is going to be for Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance really affect their value, in your opinion.
Well, I mean, it's kind of what we talked about with, I think, Herbert last year, to a lesser extent with Jimmy G versus Tyrod, because Jimmy is better than Tyrod Taylor, I think. But it is definitely a lot more upside and a lot more downside, a lot more volatility for those weapons with Trey Lance if he does play at some point next year, which, like you mentioned, is unclear. And I'm actually tweeting this out right now as soon as I can find that 49ers for the Bay hashtag on our list here. Tweeting this out right now. So coming out of high school, obviously he goes to North Dakota State, so we know he's not a heralded guy. But Minnesota, which is where he's from, they want him to come there. The catch is they want him to come play safety, not quarterback. And of course, he ends up holding out. He got the offer from North Dakota State. He actually, I think later on in his high school career, got a few D1 looks, smaller school, but stayed committed to North Dakota State. And now I already lost the tweet. Let me find it. Where'd it go? That's what I get for being on TweetDeck.
Are you talking about him setting division records?
Yeah,
the most pass attempts in a season without a pick.
Yep, he set the NCAA all divisions records, so D1, D2, D3, whatever, for pass attempts in a season without an interception as a sophomore, which of course is basically the only full season we saw the guy play. And you talk about him maybe sitting out a year. I mean, the fact that he was basically being recruited as a safety in high school shows that, like, we didn't even know if he was going to be a quarterback. He didn't know if he was going to be a college quarterback until 3 years ago. Last time we saw him play, he was 19, 20, playing D2. So there are just a lot of unknowns with him, a lot of questions. It would not shock me to see him get kind of the Mahomes redshirt year, and maybe that's what's best for him, especially, he's going to I'll say good offense with a great coach and a great scheme that is probably a complicated scheme, because all great schemes are usually complicated. So wouldn't shock me if it took him a little bit of time to catch on and earn playing time there. But that will all depend, of course, on what they do with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, he has yak monsters on that team. I mean, yards after the catch, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, those guys can make it work for you. And he is set up to have a lot of, a good screen game if he needs it. What my concern would be with everybody in that offense, probably not George Kittle because it's George Kittle, but Ayuk and Deebo for sure, and to a lesser extent their run game, is Trey Lance is a runner. In his entire career, which is only one season, he posted 40 yards and or a touchdown in every game. So there's going to be concern. He's going to want to take off, and he should because it's in his skill set. But we've talked about it before. Running quarterbacks, they always impact the playmakers around them. They change how the game is played, and they're good for fantasy value for you, but the skill set and the receivers around them usually suffer, especially the run game. I don't think I've ever seen Kyle Shanahan with a running quarterback, though, unless you can think of one.
No, and that was the whole discourse leading up to this, right? Was Mac Jones. And well, Kyle Shanahan, he's an offensive genius, maybe not a quarterback genius, because he preferred Kirk Cousins over like Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes. He loved Jimmy Garoppolo instead of maybe going a different route. And it at least appeared, didn't turn out this way, but a route. And Mina Kimes made the point on First Take this morning. It was an excellent point. Like, what pure pocket passer who's in the league right now, obviously Breeze just retired and Tom Brady, but what pocket passer has been drafted like in the last decade has made it to the second contract with the team? And she made the point, Herbert, he's mobile. Burrow, he's mobile. Obviously Mahomes, Watson, like even these guys who are great passers, they are also mobile.
Yep.
Pocket passer is kind of a dying breed, and this is a first for Shanahan to kind of break that mold, and it could be exactly what they need. We saw Jimmy's shortcomings in the Super Bowl, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, and I will say when he was on ETR, Matt Waldman talked about how specifically Trey Lance was the best scheme fit for the 49ers because he has a very good deep ball. And his intermediate passing was off the charts. And his football IQ, they said, was the best in the draft. And I think that's part of what got Shanahan going. I don't remember exactly who, but I think it was the QB coach. After they watched Lance's pro day, Shanahan kept his QB coach in North Dakota to watch Trey Lance and to interview him for a second time. And that when that came out this morning, I think that moved the line significantly in favor of Trey Lance over Mac Jones. But, now that we're on to the fourth pick, we're all pretty sure the pick is in, and we're all pretty sure it's going to be Kyle Pitts. Do you think the Falcons shock the world here and go with someone else?
It's funny because Pitts actually said himself that he thinks the first four picks are gonna be quarterbacks, but no, I think they're probably gonna go with Pitts. I personally, I guess it like everything, it just depends on their evaluation of Fields. I don't know, but I think I would lean quarterback and get the Matt Ryan replacement and kind of slow play because it's going to be a complete tear down rebuild, especially if and when they ship Julio out June 1 after that cap hit. Well, that dead money.
And we've talked about it before, but I think a third of their cap or half their cap is in three players after this year: Julio, one of their tackles, and Matt Ryan. So you're right; they're going to need a full rebuild, and there is nothing better than letting a rookie sit a year. And you never want to be in the top 5 in picks, no matter how bad you are. So you have your chance now, and Kyle Pitts is probably the number 1 player on a lot of people's boards in general. But I think I would agree; I would go quarterback here.
And it is Kyle Pitts. And so Kyle Pitts has made history with going number 4 overall, Dalton. I'm not sure if you were aware of this or not, but he is indeed the highest tight end to ever be taken in the NFL draft. I'm trying to find, where is it at? I saw Schefter tweet it out, so I'm just going to steal it from him. I had it. I typed it down somewhere. So he's the highest tight end drafted of all time, which is since 1960. The only 2 quarterbacks, or the 2 highest tight ends before that, were 5th. There's Riley Odoms in 1972 and Hall of Famer Mike Ditka. So you have to go back a ways to even get guys who were taken 5th. And obviously Vernon Davis was 6th, and that was the next closest after that. So he he is making a bit of history. But you know what? You had more this morning on I think Get Up saying that he's the best tight end he has evaluated in his whatever, I guess 43 years he said of doing it. I think that's what he said. Don't know the validity of that, but that's what he said.
Well, PFF graded him as the highest tight end they've ever graded, 96.2. I mean, Kyle Pitts was getting lined up against SEC cornerbacks in one-on-one situations, which you do not see amongst any tight ends at that level. And his wingspan is absolutely off the charts. If he played wide receiver, he could very well be the number one wide receiver in this draft. Yep. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what Mort was also saying in that same breath this morning. And yeah, just watching some of his highlights, like it's breathtaking. Like it's like someone said Travis Kelce combined with Darren Waller. I'm not sure I'd quite go that far, but he does have like the qualities of both guys a little bit. He's not going to be probably that good, although we'll see. But he's got the speed, but he's also got like the Kelce, like he's a great route runner. He's a smart football player, very aware out there. And yeah, he's going to be fun to watch. Hopefully they can find a quarterback long-term there that he can thrive with. But I think it is going to be fun to see how he's used. God, if Julio is still there by some chance, good Lord, they're going to be a problem.
Yeah, well, and if I was doing projections, and I was listening, PFF was talking about this, but based on how a team spends their first-round pick, it usually affects their pass attempts. I think Atlanta's probably going to be a really pass-happy team. Even more exciting, I think Arthur Smith's a really good coach. He's coming from an offense he coached really well in Tennessee, and Jonnu Smith was used creatively in it. I think Kyle Pitts is way more skillful than Jonnu Smith. But most importantly, I just don't know how you cover this offense. Their defense is going to be absolutely horrendous too. I know you don't like me projecting the offense defense, but I can pretty confidently say I don't think Atlanta's.
Yeah, they've got a lot of holes on defense, and obviously they're not plugging any of those with the fourth pick here. I guess what I'd say about Pitts is I've seen the discourse leading up to this where it's like, okay, how is he any different than Evan Ingram, than Noah Fant, than like these freak athletes who everyone's excited about, but they're fine, but and they haven't panned out as like what you would maybe hope they could be based on their physical traits. But the difference here is that he does actually possess a lot of the technical skills, I guess, that those guys don't. He's just a much more polished player to go along with a lot of that other stuff, especially Noah Fant. Fant basically was learning, even when he got in the NFL, still learning how to play football, and still kind of is at some point. Whereas this guy, I mean, he's got all of the tools. He's going to be a fun player to watch. Eli says he needs the Saints to trade up to 6, 7, or 8, which apparently they're trying to.
I got to unlock my door real quick. I will be right back.
Sounds good. But yeah, Eli, let me know in the comments. What are you thinking about Aaron Rodgers? The Saints are kind of my dark horse team who I think should maybe be a little bit interested. I don't know how they'd make that work, like cap wise or anything like that, but they're one of the teams that's like kind of a ready-made contender if you get a quarterback like that in there. And plus, I don't really want to see Rodgers go to the Broncos. Alrighty, so let's see. We're on commercial, but Bengals are on the clock, and this is also where it gets interesting, at least for me. The discourse around this Bengals pick leading up to tonight has been, do they take an offensive lineman? Do they go tackle and protect their investment in Joe Burrow? Or do they go with the receiver, whether or not that's Jamar Chase, whether or not that is Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle, any of those three? But okay, Eli says money problems. I asked about Aaron Rodgers. Need Fields. Yeah, Fields would be interesting. I guess I don't think the Panthers would trade with with the Saints, but the Panthers have been, well, trading up is getting less likely, but the Panthers had allegedly been looking to trade up and down, which doesn't seem like that is really how a team would probably operate. I think they would have more of a direction, but maybe not. Yeah, Fields will be interesting for the Saints for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening if I'm just being realistic. I mean, to the Bengals talk, though.
Their pick is in, by the way. I'll go see if I find it on Twitter anywhere.
I'm going with Jamar Chase here. I saw Joe Burrow wanted him there. Joe Burrow had the best deep passing grade of any QB ever.
I understand letting Patrick Mahomes influence your 32nd pick. I'm not sure I'm letting Joe Burrow influence the number 5 overall pick.
I know, but they also went out and they signed Riley Reif, who's a serviceable tackle. Jonah Williams is back. They have a good – I think their offensive line is going to be better than it was last year.
Yeah, but Sewell is like – that's your long-term left tackle if that's who you grab. Like he is a stud. Some of the clips I've seen of him, it's just absurd. Like I saw a clip of him today where he wiped out a linebacker and a safety like on the same play. Like hit the linebacker so hard he got up the field to block on a running play. Hit the linebacker so hard that he knocked over the safety. Is that
the play where he took someone back 30 yards? I think I've seen that play.
No, well, maybe that play probably exists, I'm sure too, but no, that's not the play. But this athletic draft guide projects him as an immediate starter with Pro Bowl potential, and I know that you can say the same thing about Chase, who it looks like. Did he just go? Did he just go to the Bengals?
It's Jamar Chase.
It's Jamar Chase. You know what? That's going to be great for Chase and great for Burrow. I just hope Burrow can stay healthy. I hope they can find a way to protect him. I know they've invested in the offensive line a little bit. I just think I'd be looking at left tackle if I were them from a real football perspective. From a fantasy perspective, this is great for Chase and, for Burrow too.
Well, so let's work out that wide receiver room now since we know Jamar Chase is there. In your evaluation, are you going to immediately put him as the number 1 over T. Higgins and Boyd?
Well, Boyd is the clear number 3. He is kind of the slot guy who has more real football value than fantasy football value next year in my mind. Gosh, yeah, I think I would put Chase as the top guy over Higgins right away. I like Higgins too, but Chase is just such a down the field weapon, and you mentioned it. Burrow is a great downfield passer.
When he's not targeting AJ Green, that is. 24 deep targets to AJ Green last season, and I think 3 or 4 of them were deemed catchable. It was tough last year with that AJ Green to Burrow connection. But yeah, I agree. It's a deep threat. Now I do think with the 35th pick they have, 37th pick, they should definitely draft tackle. It is a deep enough class that they could probably find somebody there.
It's also possible at that point, depending on what kind of tackle run we get late in the first, they may be looking to trade back because once in that range, what we were finding with the Chiefs in that range, the tackle that you'd be reaching for a tackle at that point unless somebody drops. So I'll be curious to see what they do. Tweeting this right now, the stat that we had. Oh, are you already doing it right now? I see you have their hashtag highlighted.
Yeah, I already have the Jamar Chase tweet out there.
Go for it. But Chase, in his what did the Bengals do at tight end? We'll give that a second here. Chase led the country in 2019 in receiving yards after contact with 411, and 85.1% of his college catches were either first downs or touchdowns, which that's just impressive. The guy, he's gotten some DeAndre Hopkins comparisons, which you can kind of see it because his biggest strength as a down the field guy, because he's 6 feet tall. You would think he's like 6'3", 6'4" with the plays he's able to make, but he kind of has the Tyreek Hill, the DeAndre Hopkins, like he can high point the crap out of the ball, man. Like he just goes and gets it.
Yeah, and I definitely I see the comp for DeAndre Hopkins. I also think by a large margin he's the most talented real wide receiver in this class. I know Devonta Smith is very talented, but Jamar Chase in his 1 season at LSU outproduced Justin Jefferson, who just had a 1,200-yard, 10-touchdown season as a rookie, which is unheard of. I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, Smith did just break all of his records this year. Yeah, I think that Chase is the most talented. I think Devontae Smith is the most sure thing, and then Waddle is kind of somewhere in between in my mind. Real quick on Eli's question, any thoughts on the Bengals and the tight end position? Or are they just gonna go with a guy who is basically just a blocker and kind of roll that way? I don't know why that went away.
I mean, Drew Sample was fine last season as their starting tight end before he got injured, and then CJ Uzomah is fine as well. I mean, there are guys in this draft later down the line who are okay, who've gotten outshined by Kyle Pitts. I don't think it's really necessarily a big position of need.
Yeah, you got Trimble at Notre Dame. You have the kid from Miami. I know if the Dolphins don't take Sewell or Smith, I'm punching my TV.
Oh, well, the pick is in for the Dolphins. This should be interesting.
Let's go on Twitter. Wait, Noah's not a Dolphins fan, is he? Or is he?
He is. He was a Dolphins fan, then he was a Rams fan.
I remember you telling me he was a Rams fan, but that's all I remembered.
Oh. I have not seen this pick yet, but if you were to bet your money on, do you think it's Smith or do you think it's Sewell? Because I think it's probably one of those players.
I think it's Sewell. I think Sewell is the pretty clear number one guy. I think Smith. I don't know. I just think, we talk about their offensive line and how they've got all of these picks. Their offensive line was super, super young last year, so you would think they would get better. But I still think if you can go get your future left tackle right now and kind of reshuffle some of those guys a little bit.
Well, and I think the trade for Eric Fowlers to Washington shows a lot about who they were targeting in the draft and that they were going to go with tackle early on. I mean, they do have the 18th pick as well, so they could go with a tackle there.
It seems like they might go running back there, which again, I do not like that. I had this as one of our potential talking points if we need them. Let me find our banner here and pull it up, because I actually had the Dolphins in this hypothetical question of mine. Which team has the most to gain in this draft in your mind, Dalton?
I think it's the Jets. If I were to pick any team, the Jets actually, it's between Jacksonville and the Jets.
My rationale on the Dolphins is they have 6, 18, 36, 50, and 81. They just went 10-6. They have Tua, who's an unknown, so you hope that he kind of gets things turned around and plays to what people think he can. They can kind of shift the balance of power in that division if they hit a lot of these picks, because they already have a pretty good roster, a pretty good coach, and a quarterback with potential.
I agree. I still have questions about Tua, which might be part of my reluctance to say it. I would say Jacksonville, now that I've thought it through, they have 6 picks in the top 65, which is an incredible amount. Obviously, 2 in the first round, 3 in the second, and 1 in the third. And to have that many picks in this draft is going to be incredible. I'm really excited about them as a team. I know we talked a little bit about our hesitancy of whether or not Trevor Lawrence is going to be a generational quarterback, but it's going to be the best quarterback they've fielded in a while. And they've changed everything in their front office. So we're going to see where it's at. This Dolphins pick, though, has been in for so long.
I know.
And it's just not going. One little tidbit from Adam Schefter that I thought was funny is the 49ers didn't tell any of their scouts or assistant coaches who they'd picked. They just waited to tell everybody at the draft.
I saw someone who works for the Niners apparently told Shanahan and Lynch to not tell him because he wanted to find out, like, watching on TV. It's like, man, that is not how I'd want to find out the number 3 pick for the franchise that I have an important position with. But to each his own. I see some tweet. Oh, okay. This is a surprising pick, I think, a little bit. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't. Can you?
Jalen Waddle.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Noah. You can punch your TV. I'm going to give my thoughts on Jalen Waddle, and we'll be tweeting this out. Jalen Waddle has
you're a hater. Go for it.
I'm not a hater. I'm not a believer. Jalen Waddle has a career 144 targets at Alabama, and I know he didn't play this season, but he played 3 seasons there. Last season, he was outcompeted by Henry Ruggs, which Henry Ruggs is a very good player, but the guy I just don't think he's really shown enough to justify a pick this high. I would much prefer a guy who won the Heisman, had almost 1,900 yards receiving, and despite his size, has been very talented. And I generally thought that the Dolphins have done very well with this rebuild. I do not like this pick at all. I honestly don't. I don't know where you stand on this, but
I don't love it in the context of they have Will Fuller, so that seems like a little bit of a clunky fit. But I will say, if any team can take a shot on a high upside guy, and if they're looking at receiver, obviously Chase is gone. Between the two Alabama guys, like I just said, Waddle is the guy with the higher upside because I said this to you earlier today when you were hating on Waddle. If people throw around the Tyreek Hill thing every time there's a fast receiver, pretty much, this is an instance where I actually don't hate that comparison. I don't think he has not shown the ball skills that Tyreek has that just makes him different as far as going up and high pouring the ball and jumping over the guy against the Texans on that goal. Everyone remembers that play. And he's had other plays like that too. But I don't know. He's just such an electric player. He's obviously got the connection with Tua already, and he's gonna help because he is great after the catch. He's gonna make life a little bit easier for Tua. Some of those dump downs turning into big plays. They can get really creative on offense. Use him in jet sweeps. Maybe put him in the backfield a little bit. I don't know. He is a great returner. So he brings an electric punt and kick return dynamic. Do you remember the play against LSU in 2019, the Alabama punt return where the kid got his face ripped off practically, but didn't fall down and scored the touchdown? That was Waddle. So he is an electric playmaker. I am with you that I think I would have rather seen them go offensive line here, but I think they're clearly, number one, hoping that some of their younger guys they have now can grow into their positions a little bit. And number two, they have plenty of draft capital. If they even wanted to move up again and maybe take Slater in the mid first, I don't think that is out of the question either.
Yeah. And you're right. Slater will still be there. I think Vera Tucker from USC will be there. Tevin Jenkins from
the kid
Oklahoma
from
State.
Virginia Tech. Is it Carousel?
Darisaw. Yeah. They'll all be there. And I don't know. If you were going to trade back and then back up to 6, I don't think Waddle was going to go this high anyways. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe somebody had him on their draft board in front of it. But I just feel like this is still a little bit of a reach, and I know the Dolphins got good draft capital out of it. But
here's the play. If you have it on ESPN, did you just see it? The punt return?
I did, yeah. And he is a talented player. I just haven't seen enough, and there's going to be some polish issues, I'm sure. That Sarkisian offense, too, at Bama is just made to produce receivers, and you're going to have issues coming out. I just feel like it's not going to be the greatest transition.
I'll give you this nugget from Matt Harmon, reception perception guru, on Jalen Waddle. He says, the best speed receiver in the draft, without question. Jalen Waddle's 80.3% success rate versus man coverage shows he's got more than just wheels. There's some undersold nuance and route technique to Waddle's game, which I think that's important because without that, and we'll see, but a guy like Matt Harmon, if he says he sees that, then I would say there's a good chance that is what it's going to turn out to be in the NFL. If that is the case, that is what separates the guys of that size from being actual legitimate receivers to gadget guys.
Yeah, and that's going to be the importance of it. I think the lucky thing is he's not going to immediately be getting wide receiver 1 treatment. The corners are probably going to go to Fuller. Who knows what Devontae Parker will see this year, if we're going to see the contract season Devontae Parker or if we're going to see the Devontae Parker we knew for several years. I will say Mike Gesicki is probably undraftable at this point on that team.
I don't think so. Undraftable at tight end?
Yeah, I think he's a streamable, but I don't think I would draft him.
He is still 100%. a guy I'd be looking at later in drafts.
Really?
I think actually, if anything, this makes it more likely Gesicki ends up on one of my on one of my teams because he's going to be undervalued because they have Waddle, they have Parker, they have Preston Williams. It's like I still wouldn't be surprised if Gesicki is the security blanket, and he has shown that he has a little bit of that extra gear above just like like the normal boring NFL tight end.
Where would you start Waddle then? Because my presumption is going to be Parker and Fuller are going to take the outsides, and Waddle's probably going to play the slot, which is going to take away a lot of where Gesicki saw his work last season. Where would you profile this off? How would you set this offense up?
Oh yeah, I think that is probably about how it'll profile. I just think that there's going to be enough to go around there, and I think you're going to hear the argument that there's not enough to go around there. That I think Gesicki's going to end up being an undervalued guy who, if he's going in like the 9th, 10th round, like that's a tight end I'm probably going to end up with on my team.
So are you profiling this team for a lot of pass attempts, Evan?
I'm not profiling anybody for a lot of pass attempts because I don't do that.
Okay, well, I was trying to get it out of you, but it kind of sounded like you were saying there's a lot to go around here, and for 4 guys to all eat for fantasy.
No. They don't have to all eat for fantasy. Not all 4. I think this hurts. I think this hurts Devontae Parker and Will Fuller more than Gesicki. That's my take.
Oh, that's interesting. I would say Will Fuller is largely unaffected. I would say Devontae Parker probably. I don't think Devontae Parker is a guy I want to draft this year, in part because of his past and
not that Waddle is like only a gadget guy, but I think they are going to really scheme ways to get him the ball, and I just think Gesicki is one of their more talented and reliable guys. Let's face it, he is more reliable than Will Fuller. He is more reliable than Devontae Parker on the field and off the field, whether it's getting in trouble, getting injured, whatever the case may be. So I think it hurts both of those guys more. That's my take.
Well, I think that's a strong take. I think Gesicki's gonna take a hit. But we can see when we get to the NFL season. We can move on to the Lions. This is a way less interesting pick. Despite everything we've talked about, they did take a tackle. They took Penei Sewell, who he fell farther than I thought he was going to fall at pick 7.
Somebody tweeted Dan Campbell just wiped a little piece of kneecap out from the corner of his mouth. Remember his press conference?
He's going to eat their kneecap. But this is I think the one thing I'll say about this, because I don't know about you, but I'm not entirely interested in the Lions at all, because at least at wide receiver, they have no skill positions. Jared Goff is a guy who only works when he's not under pressure, and this is going to help alleviate some of that pressure. I don't know. What are your takes about the Lions adding to their depth?
Number one, it's good because they need a building block like literally anywhere on that team. So to get your left tackle of the future is good. And my other take on the Lions is really the only guy I have a whole lot of interest in drafting is Swift. Other than that, I am probably going to be mostly looking away from the Lions. Sure, I guess I forget their tight end. Why am I blanking on his name? Hawkinson. Hawkinson will be another guy who, even though he was a little disappointing last year, who you'll draft, but you won't be like excited about him. And I was actually going to bring this up. Perfect transition here. Kyle Pitts, Ian Harwitz has him as his tight end 6. So that's a lot higher than like a typical rookie tight end. So that's a guy who's even going to jump in front of Hawkinson, and Hawkinson is probably going to be more like tight end, like 10 this year.
What I will say is I saw a lot of people profiling Kyle Pitts in the 4th round of ADP, and I'll go ahead and say that's way too rich for my taste. And that's not in dynasty drafts. That's in just redraft leagues. Mm-hmm. Noah has a pretty good question here. I don't think we're too interested in the Lions at all. No. If you're the Broncos, do you consider another quarterback? I think absolutely. I don't know if you saw this while we were talking, but it looks like the front office for Green Bay is going to stonewall Aaron Rodgers, according to Schefter. They're not going to trade him.
Really? What did he
say? You'd have to look for the exact tweet, but
wow. Schefter does have this tweet. One NFL head coach called Lions first-round pick Penei Sewell, quote, the one surefire Hall of Famer in this class.
Yeah, that would be Kyle Pitts, not Penei Sewell. But if I'm the Broncos, you got to take Fields at 9, right? If Carolina doesn't do it.
I would definitely take Fields. You do have the added layer of the Rodgers stuff and not knowing, even though they say they're going to stonewall him, they know better than us, and they could try and slow play it. It's also June 1, a lot like Julio. The dead cap situation is a lot more palatable for Green Bay with Rodgers. So maybe if that happens, it's not tonight. So I don't know if they have to like take this pick with Green Bay in mind. I would just take the best guy though, and I would take Fields. And if you trade for Rodgers, you can find somewhere to trade Fields, whether or not it's Green Bay, which even with Love, I still think Green Bay would be foolish not to take Fields back, Green Bay or elsewhere. So yeah, I think I would go Fields if I'm the Broncos.
It's time to get excited because Mike Clay said there's a surprise coming to 8. So if you were to bet your surprise here for Carolina, do you think they're trading down or do you think they're taking a quarterback despite the Darnold trade?
Well, it'd be really funny as if they took Mac Jones.
I would grade that a D+ on my chart if they take Mac Jones here. If any team, my ideal situation, while we're just briefly talking about Mac Jones, is that he ends up with Ryan Pace in Chicago, and that entire franchise just burns to the ground.
Yeah, that would not be a pretty situation. Gosh, I don't know. Surprise. Maybe they're gonna go. Like, I guess I wouldn't call like Micah Parsons a surprise, would you? But like,
no, I will say if they draft Micah Parsons, I'm going to be very tired of everybody comparing him to Luke Kuechly just because he went to the Panthers and is a 3-down blitzing linebacker. But do you think they give another weapon to Darnold and throw in Devonta Smith here?
And I guess they could, but that just seems like. I mean, you don't not take a guy you love at the top 10 because you have like Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. And DJ Moore is awesome, but more like Robbie Anderson. So Anderson's probably not like a long-term guy there, but God, I don't know. I just think they have so many needs elsewhere that if you don't like it, I would rather trade back and let somebody else take Devonta Smith if he's coveted there and pick up an asset.
Just looking at talks going on Twitter.
Their pick. It's Jace Horn, the cornerback from South Carolina.
I don't like that pick. I think Surtain's better.
Louis Riddick actually said that he thought that Horn was going to be the first guy off the board because he's a better man-to-man guy. I don't really have an opinion, but that was an interesting take from a smart man who everybody else pretty much had Surtain, I think, as the top guy and the first guy off the board. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would say with their offseason, it's probably smart for the Panthers to have picked defense, but I feel like this would have been a prime spot for them to trade, and they didn't do it. I am also generally a fan of just trading down. I mean, what are your initial thoughts on this Panthers defense? I mean, they had that kid from Temple last season. They were pretty good. J.C. Horn is a press corner. I think his comps were Jalen Ramsey. I mean, he's a very physical corner. My worry about drafting a physical corner in this NFL is that the NFL, it's gotten, I don't want to say soft, but they definitely are less contact prone, and corners need to be really good at mirroring, which at South Carolina was something he showed that he wasn't as able to do.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts as a whole on their defense would be I still see them as a team that is going to get run all over because that was an issue last year. Defensive tackle is like historically weak in this draft, especially at like there's like the one kid from Alabama and like maybe one other guy, and then it's like nobody likes any of the D tackles. So there's not going to be a solution there. The shadow of Luke Kuechly still looms large at the linebacker position there. So while this kid may be a talented player, they're going to still have some issues on defense. We'll see. We'll see what happens with them. They'll be interesting. I'm excited for the Sam Darnold era because, as you know, I believe one time told you that I would take him over Baker Mayfield last summer.
You did say that. we will now he now has as good of offensive situation as Baker is in. I will say
I would argue maybe even better. Baker's scheme is probably, although Rule is a pretty good coach
rules
too. It's
well
pretty
and
equal.
Joe Brady, I mean LSU national championship.
Mhm.
I will say I would have really preferred the Panthers to go tackle here with Darisaw or the Northwestern kid because last season their line ranked.
The thing I don't love about the Northwestern kid is that everyone says he has short arms, and I saw someone just kind of off the cuff write that, well, his short arms might force him eventually to a move inside. It's like, oh, I don't really want to be drafting a tackle in the top 15 that turns into a guard.
That's true. But if they would have taken a tackle here, I mean, their line was not that great last year, and Sam Darnold is not a mobile quarterback, and he's already spent 3-4 years of his career seeing ghosts in New England.
Yep. I was wondering how long it was going to take us to get to that line.
So I am worried. I do think Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold both posted 66 QBRs last season, and Teddy Bridgewater was in a drastically better situation. So I do expect Sam Darnold to be good this season. I actually do. I'm excited to see him there. I just wish they would have given him more something better here.
Yeah. Now all eyes on the Broncos, especially given the Rodgers stuff. But even before that, like Noah asked about, do they go quarterback here? Like I think they just have to. They have to.
I don't if they don't go cornerback here or quarterback here, I am going to be incredibly confused about what they because they should be in win now mode with the weapons they have, and their defense is underrated. I think it was Elliot Christ on Twitter who said it's very similar to when Tom Brady went to the Bucs. They are a very good team who's just missing one piece.
Yeah, I don't think they're quite that level of roster, but the overall point does stay on that. Yeah, they've got some guys on defense. Von Miller coming back, bring back Simmons. Vic Fangio can obviously coach his butt off on defense, and then they've got all those young guys on offense who are so talented. They just they've got Drew Lock, who is very bad. Teddy Bridgewater is okay, but he's not going to really bring you anything more than just okay.
Yeah, well, you only traded a 6th-round pick for him, so at the end of the day, there's not a lot of spent draft capital, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and if if John Elway was still in charge of the decisions, Mac Jones would be like the home run. The pick would already be in. They would have probably already announced it 3 minutes left on the clock. But I have a little bit of hope for the Broncos. I hope they don't do it because I don't want them to compete with the Chiefs, but I have a little bit of hope for their fans that maybe they'll make a smart decision here.
Matt Barrows, who covers the 49ers for The Athletic, just an aside here, tweeted, Kyle Shanahan, to put it lightly, was amused by the reporting that immediately connected the 49ers to Mac Jones when they made last month's trade. We weren't going to look to correct that, Shanahan said, of the Jones to San Francisco reports at all. So we spent what is the greater part of a month. I will say Adam Schefter reported it, so I don't think it was all smoke.
You even had a TikTok made ready to go on the half-point TikTok.
Oh, I'm still tweeting that. That TikTok is still going live because it's Trey Lance, and they're going to go 6-11. Thank you for reminding me that. For anybody listening, Half Point for Podcast is now on TikTok. Highly recommend the follow.
Yep, I've got a Kyle Pitts video that I'll put up at some point, maybe tomorrow. We'll see.
If you would like to see the Kyle Shanahan TikTok, it is now live.
Man, I'm on the edge of my seat for this Broncos pick. They're putting Mac Jones on camera. What do they know?
As a Chiefs fan, I don't want Justin Fields here. As a Chiefs fan, I would love Mac Jones in Denver because if you told me their QB room was Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock, and Mac Jones,
just incredible.
I mean, you may as well just put all three out there with the athletes you have.
Put Mac Jones at quarterback and flank him with the other two.
Whew. I mean, this is the pick we've been waiting for, and everything tells me with Vic Fangio running that offense, it's going to be Parsons out of Penn State. They're going to get their 3-down linebacker. Honestly,
yeah, that would not surprise me. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. That would not surprise me if he ends up being the guy there.
I am going to say why did the first 3 picks of this draft take so long, especially if the 49ers had already knew who they were going to take?
Oh, you know how it goes. It's the same amount of time almost no matter what pick.
Todd McShay has Justin Fields as his 4th best available. I don't know how I feel about that.
The pick is in.
Eli says Parsons would make a nice 3-4 blitzing middle linebacker, though. He would, but you can chip in on this if you want, Evan. But I think that linebackers are the running backs of defense when it comes to schemes. I just don't think they're as important as other positions.
To call them the running backs of defense is probably a little harsh, but I get like your overall point where you're going with that. And yeah, I would rather invest in, if not quarterback, go with Slater, go with an offensive lineman or, something that is a little harder to find in the NFL.
Is your draft board not refreshing?
I minimized it. I keep forgetting. It takes it away. Someone just tweeted LOL Denver. What's happening?
Well, now I'm excited because
but no one's tweeted the pick yet.
I'm sure someone knows the pick. Either that or we're just assuming they didn't take.
Oh my
God. Patrick Surtain goes to the Denver Broncos. And what? Oh, well, do you want to talk about this or do you just want to move on?
Go ahead. I've got a nice tweet I'm going to display here. Give me a second.
Well, you go ahead and get that tweet going. Here's what I got to say. This is a bad pick. You are a team that has probably a top 5 offensive unit, and you choose to go defense when your quarterback has shown not a reluctance to be good, an inability to play well. Drew Lock was the 33rd graded quarterback in the NFL last season, despite the fact that 32 start for teams. He had one of the worst deep passing grades. Jerry Jeudy led rookies in air yards last season. Jerry Jeudy didn't finish with more than 600 yards. I mean, it's just not good. And Josh Briscoe calling them the poverty franchise just caps it off because it just doesn't define anything better. I don't know. Do you want to give any of your immediate reaction? As a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I am so excited.
As a Chiefs fan, you're excited. A little part of you hopes this doesn't mean that they think or, are going to land Aaron Rodgers. If they do get Rodgers, this makes more sense. But on the other hand, this puts more pressure on them now to get Rodgers because, as you can do as much with your defense as you want. If your quarterback is Drew Lock and or Teddy Bridgewater, you're going to win like 9 games at the most, probably. And they had a chance here to take a quarterback who I really think could have been their guy for a long time, and they didn't do it. So for their sake, I hope they can pull a certain MVP out of their hat. Otherwise, I have some questions.
I was going to say, if we're just drawing lines here, the Packers could use somebody aside Jerry Alexander after King got burned. So, maybe this pick was made with the full intent of trying to trade. I don't think it was. And I'm just not a fan of this pick at all. These last 2 picks, in all actuality, I'm not a fan of. I know quarterback's incredibly important in the NFL, but there are still some big playmaking weapons. Now the question is, can Jerry Jones hold himself together, or does he just draft Devonta Smith? Because that's where we're at.
I think I made that joke. It may have been with Smith, actually, with one of the receivers. I made it with Pitts, full well knowing he wouldn't be there, but saying one of those receivers is going to drop and Jerry Jones is we're all going to be looking at Jerry Jones wondering if he is going to pull the trigger.
If you are the Cowboys here, do you take Darisaw or do you take another offensive tackle? Who would you take here?
That's a great question because I think pretty much everybody and their dog thought that they were going cornerback here, right? And both their guys go off the board. Yeah, I guess I'd probably go offensive line because that offensive line is they're aging. I keep doing that with my screen. They're kind of an aging unit that it's just not what it once was. So Man, they are sure showing Mac Jones on this screen a lot. I keep thinking imagine the Cowboys taking him now. That'd be funny.
Well, Mac Jones is just getting the Aaron Rodgers treatment where he gets shown every time someone goes over him. When that happened, and he went all the way at 25.
Schefter says that Dallas is likely to trade out of number 10.
That is actually a very smart move. And Eli actually just said Cowboys should trade back, but Jerry's relentless. Well, if Chef looks like they are making the smart move here, that is very unfortunate.
He hasn't said that anything is like he just said that they're likely to trade out of 10. No trade yet.
Now
the Eagles are trading up. So are the Eagles trading up for Devontae Smith? Because that would be exciting.
Or let's have a little fun here. Saints were talking about trading up, getting Mac Jones. Mac Jones is available. Cowboys looking to trade back. Saints trade. Saints get Mac Jones, and we have ourselves a three-headed dragon for who's going to win the quarterback in New Orleans this season.
You know what? I don't know if I want this to happen, but you know what should happen is the Bears should absolutely trade up and go get Fields, right? Like they have to. And on the same token as my who has the most to gain in this draft, who has the most to lose? It's easily the Chicago Bears in my mind, because if they don't go get their quarterback, like they're in a bad spot, because that defense last year, I think this was maybe per Football Outsiders or PFF, I can't remember, one of those two, said that they were the second oldest defense in the NFL. They lose Kyle Fuller, so they get a little bit younger, but lose a very good player, but they're a little bit younger on defense. But the point is that window is closing, and you got to get your quarterback, and I think try and make a move to win. And as much as they've tweeted Andy Dalton QB1, I don't think anyone's buying that.
Well, they tweeted Nick Foles QB1, and that lasted all of 2 weeks last season. I will say, we know, I'm pretty sure New England takes quarterback at 15 the way this is looking. Yeah,
the Patriots are going to end up getting Fields. Everyone's already preemptively mad. And I didn't really think about it. I just read it really quickly. It is pretty shocking that the Eagles and the Cowboys pulled off a trade. That is not something that I would have expected.
Did they flip picks, or did Dallas trade out of the first round?
No, that board hasn't updated yet. It's 12 and 84 for 10. There we go. It just updated.
Oh, Dallas got Philly's third round pick as well. Okay.
Yeah. So it's got to be it's got to be Devontae Smith. Has to be. We'll save the speculating on the fantasy situation until it actually is.
Yeah, well, and Eli just said, let's see how Giants screw their pick this year.
Eli, Dalton and I were talking about before we came on. I was reading a mock on The Athletic with all the beat writers, and the guy who picked for the Giants, both the offensive tackles were gone, which is their biggest need. And then since Gelman never trades back, the guy took D end at 12 or at 11 and was like, hey, you know what? They need an edge. Gelman never trades back. I know I'm reaching by like 15 spots, but like this is probably what they would do in this situation. So yes, it is very likely the Cowboys or the Giants reach. Although Slater is still there, so maybe he will be the guy. But
well, what this surprises me is, and we talked a little bit about this before we started, I thought the Waddle and Smith to New York just seemed wrong because they have a very good wide receiver core in Golladay, Shepard, Slayton, even Ingram, and then Saquon, who caught 90 balls his rookie season. I mean, that's a really good supporting cast for Daniel Jones. And I get whatever you loved Devonta Smith, but you just didn't need him there, especially after signing Golladay. And the fact that the Eagles traded up shows me that I think those rumors were right, which I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm kind of glad from a fantasy perspective that Kenny Golladay is not going to be competing against any draft picks.
Yeah, it is very possible that is why, which is interesting. That's all happening within the same division. A team trading with a division rival to get ahead of another division rival potentially to grab a receiver. But you're right, and I think we seem to pick the beginning because I want to talk about Devontae Smith on the Eagles. I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. He would be such an awesome fit, and even though he's the third guy off the board, I think would be a lot of people's number one rookie fantasy wide receiver this year. This year, not for Dynasty, just this year.
Jalen Reagor is his only real competition. Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, and I think here he would get a good amount of slot work, and they'd put Reagor on the outside where he naturally fits, which could be exciting. I also really do like Jalen Hurts. So all in all, I think this is one of the better fits. I also think the coaching staff that they've instilled in the Eagles are going to be important to Devontae Smith's production, because I think he's a player that's going to need an offense that's going to actually scheme for him and not just set him out wide and let him run the deep ball every route. If he plays a lot inside here, he could be worth it. And I talked to you about this earlier. I am concerned about Devontae Smith and his weight, and I really wish they would just announce the pick so we can get into like full talk about him, because last year they skipped Justin Jefferson and took Jalen Reagor. So are they going to take Rashad Bateman here?
That would be a reach, and a devastating one at that. Yeah, they are sure taking their time. That says the pick is in. I don't know how it's not on Twitter if the YouTube TV already has the pick in.
Eli thinks the Miami Edge could go here, Rousseau, which could be interesting. I agree
with the second part of the sentence that says it would be gross.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Devontae Smith, who was their target all along, Rappaport says.
Okay, well, it's good that we now know that.
Okay, so the thing on Devontae Smith. Oh, Eli's saying for the Giants, Miami. Oh. Yeah, I could totally see that. Would be gross there too. But the thing about Devontae Smith and why I think he's the safest of these three is he is just such an elite route runner, and he's got great hands. If the ball gets to him, he's not going to go high point stuff. You mentioned it. He's not the biggest, and he's not like the freak athlete that Chase is, for example. But man, he's just got such good hands, always open, and just given the struggles the Eagles have had at receiver, that's just like exactly the type of guy that they need. There is a guy who can get open and make some plays and feels kind of like a sure thing or pretty close to it. I think he's going to have a very nice rookie season, and ballparking here, I think he's probably going to go like as a top, I'll say 36 guy. He'll be like in your flex consideration if you draft him right off the bat.
What I will say, because I feel like I'm obligated to mention this every time, ever since the 2020 Hollywood Brown debacle, Adam Levitan talks about this ad nauseum, but wide receivers who weigh under 180 pounds who have been successful in the NFL have a name of one, and it's Deshaun Jackson. It is
the thing that's different about him. Most guys who are that small, it's like they're usually the speed is their calling card, and he is fast, but he is like if Keenan Allen were that small, basically. Not saying he's going to turn into like type of route runner, but like that's like his skill set, right? It's like he's always open. Keenan Allen always open. And Eli asks, what's the best pick that we've seen so far? Is it this one? And I think given the context of they trade back from 6, we think they give up their chance to get one of those blue chip receivers, maybe. Or if they do, it's Waddle. And Waddle out of those 3 guys is the one that I kind of like the least in a situation where he's like already the guy there. I think just given that context too, they trade back, they get assets. I think this is the best pick so far in this draft.
I actually would say Trey Lance. Trey Lance.
Are you saying that because you're a little bit relieved for them they didn't go Mac Jones? Because that's kind of like that. If I said Trey Lance, that's how I would feel. I was like, well, Trey Lance, but thank God it wasn't Mac Jones.
In part for that, because Mac Jones would have been a horrible pick, but also Trey Lance before the season started was the number 2 prospect off the board. Nothing changed other than Zach Wilson came out, and him and Wilson, I would say, are pretty comparable in the competition they faced, but Lance is a better prospect. And I think he's in a offense that could...
The Giants traded their pick. Sorry to interrupt. To the Bears. Are the Bears doing it?
Oh, okay. So if the Bears go Mac Jones here,
if the Bears go Fields, this is going to turn into my new best pick.
if the Bears go Mac Jones here, I will need a live stream of Dan Katz, aka Big Cat, for Barstool reacting to that.
I gotta go find Big Cat on Twitter. He's probably freaking out right now.
Who do you think they go Fields here? Or do you think they go Mac Jones here?
I think they go Fields. They have to.
Next question. Is this potentially the worst place for Fields to end up that we've had so far?
But on the bright side, if that does happen, Allen Robinson finally gets a good quarterback, maybe, hopefully.
I mean, God, I really don't want Fields to end up here. It makes sense, but this team just sucks. I mean, it just does. On paper, it's Allen Robinson.
They've got Mooney, who's all right. Like Montgomery's all right.
Well, yeah, but they're trying to get rid of. They were shopping Mooney around all offseason, and then at the same time, they run Tariq Cohen. If Tariq Cohen's on the field, you know he's not in pass blocking because he can't block, and then they're going to give him 100 targets that he doesn't need, and it's just going to be a frustrating. I don't know. I think there are a lot of other teams I would have preferred him to go to from a fantasy perspective.
Big Cat tweeted, Justin Fields time. I'm ready to get hurt again. We've got our quarterback. It'd be real devastating for him if that's not who they pick.
This just feels like they pick the wait. This just feels like they go. Eli said Cole Kmet is decent. Eli, please get out of this chat. That's one of the 36 tight ends the Chicago Bears have on roster might be decent. But no.
So they're getting the Giants in return are getting next year's first. They're 5th and 4th this year. So
has to be a quarterback.
Wait,
absolutely.
Next year's one. So are they not trading this year's? Are they keeping their pick this year?
No, you're looking at Schefter's tweet. Pick 20. Pick 20.
I missed pick 20. I write the next year's one. Okay. I was gonna say that seems a little light. I'll only give up one. Okay.
I will say I am a fan of this ending up I hope it's Fields ending up here and not ending up in New England. Okay, the pick is official.
From a real football perspective, it is very great if he doesn't go to New England and Bill Belichick doesn't get another steal.
I'm going to go ahead and old takes expose the QB1 tweet by the Bears real quick.
Yeah, Matt Harmon's already quote tweeted if you want to go snag it there.
Yep, I just got it. Yeah. And it's Justin Fields.
Man, called that one about 20 minutes, 15 minutes before it happened. Shocking. Usually those kinds of things that I say don't actually come true.
Can we just out of all 11 picks so far, this is my least favorite, not from a team perspective, but from a fantasy perspective. Incredibly smart by the Bears. Incredibly smart. I just wish Justin Fields went somewhere better.
Here's what I'll say about Justin Fields that I don't like. You want to know his Chipotle bowl? It's sofritas, brown rice, fajita veggies, romaine lettuce, and guac.
He's not eating meat.
He's tofu.
Oh, that's big. Low T.
For reference, Zach Wilson, chicken, white rice, black beans, tomatillo, green salsa, and guac. And then Trey Lance, steak, brown rice, black beans, fresh tomato salsa, tomatillo, green salsa, lettuce, and guac. The other two are just leaps and bounds above Fields in the Chipotle category. So hopefully not indication of things to come for his career.
We've talked about it, and we really like Justin Fields. But I mean, Allen Robinson's one of the best receivers you could ask for him to be paired with.
We just hope it's for more than 1 year.
It won't be. If you're just moving on, if you're Dallas here, what are you looking at? Are you taking Slater?
Oh boy! Real quick on Fields, I want to read the last sentence of his report from The Athletic. Overall, Fields' decision-making is more methodical than spontaneous. He has a high, which sounds a little bit like Trubisky, which isn't the best, but he has high ceiling traits with his athleticism, accuracy, and intangibles, which is true. The intangibles you talked about with him playing through the injury He might be the most accurate. I know the numbers would say Wilson, but he might be the most accurate deep ball guy. And just like on every down, like he just puts his ball placement is very good. And yeah, if the other mental stuff comes along, I think he can be a real nice player. And yeah, like I said earlier with the Cowboys, when I thought they were picking at 10, I would go offensive line here. I guess it's Slater, but even the kid from Virginia Tech is probably my third offensive lineman.
Darrisaw?
Yeah, my third preference.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think this could be a better situation fantasy wise than you think for both the Bears and Fields personally.
Sell me on this then, because I'm completely out.
Well, I mean, I just think that you've seen a team that has been playing with basically no matter who's been on the field the last 2 years, one of, if not the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. So I think even if he's just like average with like upside plays every now and then because he's a young kid, then I think that's already a big improvement for the week-to-week upside for a lot of those guys. I think you're just not going to see games where they get held to like 3 points, 6 points. Like I just don't think that's going to happen. Maybe early if he starts right away and he's rough early on, but I think you get to last year, you get to week 14, week 15 down to your must-win games. You could easily get 3 targets, 2 catches for 18 yards from Allen Robinson, and I just don't think that's going to happen at that point next season because I just think Fields is just a massive upgrade over Trubisky, over Andy Dalton, who would have been their guy this year, over anybody else they've had there. Basically, this whole 3 decades, really, but especially the last 2 years.
I guess my concern is less with Justin Fields. It's more Matt Nagy and whether or not I don't think he's a good play caller in the NFL.
He is definitely this is it for him. This is his last year to prove it, I think.
Yeah, and so my concern with this season is whether or not Matt Nagy shows a reluctance to change his play calling and the way he runs that offense because it's not very successful. Well, and maybe with a mobile quarterback who can throw and is effective, he might, and we'll see something closer to what he did in Kansas City with Alex Smith.
But, what I'll say in defense of Matt Nagy is I'm almost positive, had to protect Trubisky from himself and call the most basic, bland, and predictable set of plays because you can't make Trubisky make more than just the one read that's there. And I know that's a little bit of a question mark with Fields right now, but I'd be floored if he's not like already better than Trubisky his first game of the year, basically.
Well, Fields can throw to both sides of the field instead of just one, like Trubisky. We're already in a better spot, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you know what? I'm hoping for Allen Robinson that is indeed a nice fit because it'd be nice for Allen Robinson to finally have a good quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, if I was doing projections right now, I would say it's a better projected to him with Fields than him with Andy Dalton for sure.
Yeah. The one thing I will say on Fields, though, kind of similar to Deshaun Watson, we talked about some of the similarities maybe with their traits and both a little bit methodical instead of spontaneous when they first came to the NFL and decision-making and some of that stuff. I wouldn't get carried away with Fields. He's not even a guy that I would draft probably, or if you do with like your last pick, second quarterback, if you have the room type of guy, you're not taking him to be a starter. You're just kind of hoping he blows up because it could be rough from a fantasy standpoint early on, even if he does have the floor of the rushing. And now the ceiling is very high, which is why he could be worth a late round pick.
I actually think what Eli just said is a really good point too. Fields is going to extend plays and Allen Robinson's always aware. So it's going to give a lot better opportunity for Allen Robinson because that offensive line in Chicago is still a bottom third in the NFL. Yep. So Fields is definitely going to be running for his life more often than not. And if he develops a good rapport with Allen Robinson, maybe Allen Robinson stays on. is this the best quarterback Allen Robinson has played with?
Oh,
Are you
easily, because you're comparing him to Trubisky, Nick Foles.
Don't disrespect Blake Bortles now.
Blake Bortles.
Don't disrespect Blake Bortles.
Stop it.
Yeah, but I would say this is probably the best he's ever played with, and the guy hasn't even touched an NFL field.
Easily. Okay, Cowboys still on the clock here. Like I said, I think they should go O-line. I kind of assume since cornerback has been taken out of their hands a little bit, that's most likely.
I mean, Caleb Farley is still a guy who I think is within. This is where you can take him. Still, he is. The only reason he's not a top 10 pick in this draft and probably the best corner in this pack is the injuries and the opt out.
They go with Micah Parsons, who I kind of forgot was even like still on the board. He's kind of slid a little bit.
I don't hate it. I think Micah Parsons is probably
well, they just need playmakers on defense, quite frankly. So yeah. I'm good with that too. O-line or any kind of playmaker on defense, I think, is what they had to do.
And he definitely is going to be that. And I think, that's a scary linebacking core. Leighton Vander Esch, who had a great rookie season, was hampered with injuries. Jalen Smith, who's already a good linebacker. Now you have Micah Parsons. That's probably, you could tell me if I'm wrong here, probably the best linebacking core in the NFL off the top of my head. Bobby Wagner at Seattle, but that's just Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, I can't lie to you. I don't exactly have the NFL linebacking cores fresh in the memory off the top of my head, but yeah, it's pretty good. I don't know. I guess it would come. Do you consider Khalil Mack? I guess he's an edge. Technically, he plays linebacker sometimes, which is very stupid. But he does drop back in coverage a lot more often than Bears fans would like. Because you've also got the Roquan Smith in Chicago, who's a very good player.
Oh, so according to Rappaport, no matter what, they were going to take Parsons, and they traded back 2 spots and still got him. So,
well, hey, if that's their guy, then
I can't believe the Cowboys made a smart pick. They effectively traded down and still got the guy they wanted.
Yeah, it's less about them making a smart pick, more about I can't believe they traded down.
Well, if we just want to talk about trading down in general, Dave Gettleman doing it for the first time in his career.
That's true too. Yep. A couple of shocking moves here. So for Micah Parsons, his scouting report, his last sentence talks about his speed and size, his reaction, can be a cornerstone defender and a 3-down linebacker. One of the best talents in the draft. Yeah, Noah's right. I think the Chargers have to be running the picks later here. Get Herbert some protection.
Yeah, I agree with Noah. I don't think there's – if they go someone else on the offensive line, but I don't think there's anything else they should take here. They should protect Justin Herbert. He – surprisingly, he had a better passer rating last season under pressure than he did in a clean pocket, and that's not sustainable. And he was running for his life more often than not, and they were a bottom 3 run blocking line according to PFF. So they need, and they've already added Lindsley from the Packers, but just make the line good and let Herbert shine.
Yep, for sure. Eli says this brings Dallas back into the quote-unquote good category. Love this pick. Parsons, nice 4-3 outside linebacker, can hybrid, fast. Yep, I agree. Like any defensive playmaker, I think is going to be huge for them because they don't have a lot of pop on that side of the ball. If Dak is healthy, they've got a lot of pop on offense, obviously. So yeah, anything to improve the defense, and especially in that division, you would think the Cowboys would probably be the preseason favorite. I don't think people are big enough believers in the Eagles, and I don't think anyone's picking the Giants. Or
I would pick Washington. If I'm
being honest. You pick Washington?
Yeah, they have a top 10 defense easily.
They do, but quarterback is still the same issue as last year.
Fitzmagic.
Yeah, I think Fitzmagic is okay, but it's a whole different thing to think he's okay and to think he can win a division, even that division.
I think the issue is Dallas's biggest problem last season was their secondary got burned, and I still think that's going to be a major issue.
For sure.
Who's the rookie they drafted who Terry McLaurin absolutely destroyed?
Wasn't that Trayvon Diggs? Is that his name?
Yes, Trayvon Diggs.
The Alabama kid.
And I still think that's going to be a problem. Washington might have the best defense in football, or it's a top 5 unit altogether. I'm a big fan of the Washington football team this season. They added Curtis Samuel and
Hashtag Washington football team. That is their official hashtag. Or not
That is
Washington
their-
football team. Washington football. Hashtag Washington football.
Go football, go.
Go football, go.
But no, I would like to actually, let's just, while we're these next couple picks, I'm not too excited about. I don't know about you.
No, Vikings probably not going to go offense. Patriots, now that Fields is gone, I don't know what they're going to do.
Mac Jones.
Maybe. I don't hate picking Mac Jones like later, mid to late first round. I think that's all right. Just when you're talking about picking them top 5 is where I get
right now
get a little antsy.
Cowboys are plus 100 to win the NFC East. Washington football team is plus 350. The Eagles are plus 400 and the Giants are plus 450. From an odds perspective, I like Washington the most, to be honest.
Honestly, I've got to tell me Washington's again.
Plus 350.
And the Giants are plus 4.
I think the Giants are worst. Yeah, the Giants are plus 450. They're worse than the Eagles, which is a bad call.
I think at those odds, I can't believe I'm saying this. I might say the Giants.
I think you have a little bit of Giants homerism in you, and that's what it is.
I think the Cowboys are going to the division, but if you're just talking odds, they get Saquon back. They have Kenny. That defense has some holes, especially at the end, but they were like decent to pretty good at the end of last year. So if that can carry over, I don't know. I'm just saying at those odds, they would not be my pick, but at those odds, heck, why not bet on Danny Dimes? What could go wrong?
Oh, well, I think at those odds, I'm taking Washington for the futures bet. Out of curiosity, the Chiefs are minus 400 to win the AFC West. If you're curious,
what are the Broncos? Are their odds up with all the Rodgers stuff?
The Broncos are last at plus 1,600. So
see, I'm a little surprised. Wouldn't it be not the dumbest thing in the world just to throw like $10 down on that just in case Rodgers ends up there?
Yeah, I mean a plus 1,600. It's a pretty easy bet.
Because the Chiefs are great and they're going to be great, but if they got Rodgers, all it would take is for injuries to hit the Chiefs for a couple of weeks and the Broncos not to have that happen for it to be a very legit race. I think if both teams are healthy all year, the Chiefs are still better. But
if there is a long shot I like looking at this list, the Bengals are last in the AFC North at plus 2,500, which is the worst of any team.
No, that's not happening. That's not happening. Who's the favorite in that division? Is it the Browns?
It's the Ravens. I think that makes the most sense.
I think it does too, but the Browns are getting all the hype again.
But it's very tight amongst the top 3. The Steelers are third.
It's tight. The Steelers are tight with it. The Steelers should be a distant third.
Well, they're plus 350 and the Browns are plus 175 and the Ravens are plus 110.
That's a little ways off. Yeah, I would bet Ravens in that group.
And the Chargers got Rashawn Slater at offensive tackle at 13.
So, yep, that's good. I mean, obviously that helps out Herbert. It helps. I mean, pretty much, all those offensive weapons, right? Assuming that offensive line with Lindsley, with Slater now in the fold. Yeah, you would just think they're going to have a more productive and efficient offense with Herbert being in his second year, the protection getting better. Who is their coach again? I don't remember who they hired.
Oh, that's a good question. Anybody that's not
an upgraded coach, though, theoretically.
Anybody who's not Anthony Lynn is an upgraded coach. It's Brandon Staley from Mike Tomlin.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not a horrible.
Mike Triple is pitching for the Saints to trade up to 14 to get ahead of the Patriots if they wanted to take a quarterback.
Oh, my God, Mac Jones to the Saints is going to happen. I'm going to take a quick water break while we wait on this uninspiring Minnesota Vikings pick.
Go for it. Oh, man. See, what do we got coming up? We've got the Vikings. Obviously, Slater off the board now. Yeah, they're either going defense or O-line, you would imagine. Boy, I don't know. Yeah, the Saints trading up. Eli, I'm curious your thoughts on Mac Jones. Haven't heard from you on that. Let us know. He is right now the third best available on Mel Kiper's board. Actually, second now that Slater is off the board. Elijah Moore, fourth best available. That's a little surprising. He's pretty high on that. You know, maybe the Vikings could go receiver here. Elijah Moore.
Well, I don't understand why CBS still has best fit as Rashawn Slater for the Vikings, but
it still has pick as in for Chargers, so it just hasn't updated yet.
Let's see.
Just give it a refresh.
I mean, I think Kwity Paye probably goes to the Vikings here. Very athletic guy out of Michigan. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just saying, talking to myself while you were gone, I think it's probably either going to be O-line or defense, but also kind of just glanced and saw Elijah Moore available and receiver listed the need and kind of thought,
Well, I mean, would you take Bateman here out of Minnesota? I mean, hometown in a way.
Yes, very much so in a way. No, I probably would. I would not go receiver here.
Oh, we can discuss this because he's back on his crazy train. Justin Fields is the highest ranked rookie quarterback according to Matthew Berry. Thoughts on that?
Highest ranked
rookie QB.
Well, I guess you can't really say Lance because it's basically a question between him and Trevor Lawrence, right? Because Wilson is going to the Jets, so no one's going to rank him as the highest. Lance, no one knows if he's going to play. If it becomes clear that he's like their day one starter, he's very much in the conversation because he is by far in the best situation. And we obviously, everybody likes him as a prospect as well. So it would tell you if he's their day one guy, they feel pretty good about him if they've moved Jimmy elsewhere, I'm assuming, or just straight up benched him.
Yep.
But if Lance is not the day one guy, I think it's pretty easily Trevor Lawrence. And if Lance is the day one guy, I would still go Lawrence, but I think it'd be a close number 2 with Lance, with Fields being 3. The thing that makes it tough with Fields, Lance has it too, is the running. The running is the real X factor.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about it a little bit. Lawrence does have rushing upside. I also think the play calling is going to be better. Again, I'm going back to coach. The play calling is better. I think as a whole, the weapons are better in Jacksonville. I think James Robinson, James RB1 son, is better than David Montgomery. Marvin Jones, DJ Chark, and Laviska Shenault, I think, is a better receiving core than Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson and Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham.
I don't know. I think I'd give that edge to the Bears just because Allen Robinson is that good.
That's fair, and I can entertain that. But
the secondary guys, it's definitely Jaguars. But I think I'd rather have the top end guy and figure it out afterwards.
But the Jaguars also have another pick in this draft in the top 20. So we could see, or top 30. We could see another wide receiver go if they really want to go all in on that. Also, offensive line. The Jaguars definitely have that one out. But I don't know. It'll be a close one at the end of the day because I think Fields is going to have to do a lot of running. We'll see how well he survives behind that line. Just to take note of Eli's point about Mac Jones, he would rather have more picks than Mac Jones.
I asked Eli while you were gone what he thought of Mac Jones. So yeah, I agree with Eli though. Rather have more picks. Jameis can probably play just as well, if not better. And Eli said it, and he is absolutely right. The Saints are in a cap crisis, and that might be putting it lightly, which shows you how bad of a cap situation they're in. So yeah, I totally get it. Get more picks, get more cheap guys if you can do it. If you're the Saints,
yeah. The Vikings are talking to trade out of 14. Come on, Saints. You know you want to draft Mac Jones. You know you do. If
The Jets are coming up, Ian Rappaport says. If they take Najee Harris here, my heart's gonna explode.
If someone trades up and takes a running back in this draft, we can end this. You know what? I'm done doing fantasy football because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks because that would be. He's not even the best running back. It goes Javonte Williams, Trey Sermon, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne. I don't know. That's probably my ranking out of the four of them.
Oh, can we? Yeah, that's probably a little bit.
The Jets traded up. Who is here that you could possibly? Are they going to take Darisaw? That's the only thing. Or are they going to replace safety with Trayvon Moehrig out of TCU? That's a reach. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to go on here.
Vera Tucker
out of USC is another good one. I mean, there's nobody. I mean, what do you do here? I mean, maybe the linebacker out of Notre Dame is a good fit for them too. He's not on this list, but Jeremy Wosu, JOK is his name.
Someone tweeted, just to get off subject here, but I actually agree with this, and this was one of the notes I had for Slater. The Chargers signed the NFL's best center and drafted a left tackle who beat the crap out of Chase Young. I actually did have in their game they played, Ohio State won by 1,000,000, but Chase Young only had 1 sack and that was his only quarterback pressure too, I'm not saying that he's like, all pro type of guy, but if you can do that against Chase Young, you've got some potential, I'd say. So that caught my eye when I saw that. Just had to bring that up when I saw that come across the timeline over here.
Well, while we're on the subject of it, because we didn't talk a lot about Sewell, but that was one of his big knocks is he never played against elite NFL talent.
And then obviously he sat out last season. I think he just opted out in general, and the Pac-12 was one of the weird conferences with, are they going to play, not going to play?
Pick us in. What are your this is very surprising to me. Maybe, you know what? Maybe New York Jets just don't want the Patriots to have Mac Jones, and they drafted Mac Jones too.
I just saw somebody make that joke.
Oh man.
I'm gonna guess Vera Tucker. That's my guess.
If I were to guess, with all of the stuff around the Saints and the Saints coming up, I would say Caleb Farley goes to the Jets, is my guess. What a smart move by Vikings. The Jets traded 23, 66, 86 for 14 and 143. They
didn't give up an extra first.
Maybe Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I kind of wondered out loud. Like I said, Elijah Moore, maybe to the Vikings.
I mean, he's a good slot. I mean, if maybe New York's and give their quarterback everything they can.
They do need to give him some weapons one way or another. So
because I'm
just not sure they need to trade up
for a lineman. Is my take. I think there are 3 or 4 linemen here are all about the same caliber. You could have gotten at 23.
Well, the last athletic mock I've seen, I'm looking at right now, had Vera Tucker 14. So this is right on the nose of where they had him, the Vikings. Yep, Vera Tucker.
It's Vera Tucker?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Wilson's in a better situation to succeed now than he was 11 picks ago.
Yeah, they've got Becton at left tackle, Vera Tucker at guard. So I guess they've got the left side figured out.
Now you just need to get the right side.
And you know what?
Well, I will say Vera Tucker's last season played tackle. He can play guard or he can play tackle.
Yeah, I think he's profiled as a guard in the NFL, is from what I've seen.
It will certainly be interesting. I don't know. How do you feel about this trade up? I don't think it's the best, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, I guess I don't love it, but at the same time, it's like if you're the Jets and you're trying to make sure this kid doesn't get scarred for life right off the bat, I can't blame him for trying to do everything they can to protect and surround Zach Wilson with the best possible guys. And they've got a lot of draft capital. You mentioned it. So it is paying a lot to trade up, but at the same time, they're not like digging too deep into their pick stash.
Yeah, and I mean they got that first in the trade for the Seattle Seahawks. I guess now all eyes are on New England. Do you think Mac Jones is the guy here?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, the smart bet is always to say New England trades down and then just wait and see what happens and see if they actually don't. But if I had to guess, I'd say trade down just because it's Belichick and no quarterback drop to him.
You don't think he wants Mac Jones?
Yeah, I don't know what Bill Belichick wants, honestly. Like I don't know. It like he's never had to draft a quarterback really because they've always had Tom. So I don't know what type of like quarterback is his like actual preference. Does he want like that pro style pocket passer?
Do you think Jimmy Garoppolo and Mac Jones have some similarities in that sense?
I mean, yeah, I would say so.
I mean, because there were reports linking them to try to trade for Garoppolo, and it looks like that's not going to happen based on what some of the Twitter talk I was seeing today, unless that's going to change again. But I think Mac Jones is going to be the guy. That's who I think goes here. Who do you think goes?
Oh my gosh. See, I said there it is. Nope, I still don't know where it is. CBS is playing an ad somewhere that I can't find. Ad blasting me.
Oh, right there on the right? That video?
It's muted. I don't know. Sorry, I couldn't hear like anything you were saying because that ad was like blaring in my ear.
Is it gone? Oh, it's right there in front of you.
Yeah, there's no noise now. Go ahead.
Well, this is just fun. Good news for the Bears. They got Justin Fields. Bad news, being the fourth quarterback taken in the draft has been a kiss of death. Here are the last 15 drafts.
Real quick. Schefter says Mac Jones is on the clock for the Patriots. So whatever. I mean, I'm assuming that means that's who they're taking.
Oh, no. How do you feel about Mac Jones in New England?
Well, I don't know. Like I don't mind it. He's not like a shoot for the fences guy. Obviously, we've talked about it, but at the same time, I think he's going to be a solid quarterback, and they need a quarterback. I don't know. I don't really have many feelings on it because I was so prepared for him to go like way too high that I was ready to come in strong and say, this is a terrible pick. You're taking a guy basically that is the opposite, because he is the opposite of like every other quarterback in the sense that outside of Fields' throwing mechanics being a little slow, the weaknesses for all those other guys are mostly like on the mental side of things. Whereas like Mac Jones, it's like all physical. It's like the arm strength average, athletic ability below average, not none, but below average.
Well, and I know it's a kind of a meme at this point. It's been a funny joke, but Mac Jones looks like his ceiling is very similar to Kirk Cousins.
How quickly are we going to see the Mac Jones shirt off picture and the Tom Brady shirt off picture side by side, especially now that they've made this pick?
Oh my God. I didn't even think about that. I don't really want to see it.
That's going to come very quickly. I'm surprised I haven't already seen it.
The other question is, what do you make of New England's offense other than it's disgusting?
Well, Eli just asked, right on topic there, which Patriots tight end do I draft now? And that is a great question, one that we're all going to be trying to figure out because we were all very excited about. Was it Jonnu Smith was the first guy there?
Yep.
And that was exciting for like 3 seconds until Hunter Henry goes too. I guess I'd be more likely to take Jonnu because Hunter Henry has the injury concern, and you kind of need one of those guys to get injured unless like they're both just end up being like pretty good and they're on like a 2 tight end offense that we don't really see coming and it works out well. But just from what we know right now, what we think right now, basically we need an injury for either of those guys to like be a good a above average starter at tight end. So I guess I'm shooting for Jonnu Smith. Not too thrilled with either guy though. Personally, I'd rather take a chance on like a Hawkinson than or even Noah Fant than probably those two guys right now. I mean, who knows? My opinion will probably change a lot between now and the draft, but that's my first inclination. Dalton, what do you think?
I wouldn't draft either of them, and you couldn't make me. I mean, the way a fantasy tight end 9 times out of 10 makes value is touchdowns, and this offense is going to run the ball in the red zone. And more than likely, at least for the first 8 games or however many, I think Cam Newton is still under center for a period of time. And if not, it still makes sense for New England to try him out at the 5-yard line and run him up the middle 3 times to score a touchdown. So I just don't believe that they're going to return on value. And both tight ends have a injury history and have a problem staying healthy. I never like to knock a guy for that, but there's so much risk because you don't know who's going to be the primary receiver and who's going to be the X guy. You don't know who's going to be the Y guy, and you don't know how they're going to be used in blocking sets. One fun fact, Mac Jones probably had better receivers in college than he will in New England.
Oh, 100%. I mean, especially if he would have been the starter last year, but even this most recent year, yeah, he's got 2 potential future Pro Bowlers. There are not 2 potential future Pro Bowlers on his roster right now. No question about that.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't hate the pick. They needed a quarterback, and Mac Jones was getting hype all the way up at 3, so it kind of makes sense. But what I will say about this pick is we talked about it earlier. Mac Jones isn't a mobile quarterback. It seems like in the NFL you have to be able to move that, pro style, stepping up in the pocket. It just doesn't fit the NFL anymore. These defensive ends are just too big, and they collapse the pocket too quickly, too often.
Well, and even the D tackles, they're not like the big run gap pluggers anymore. They're like athletic, quick guys.
Yeah, they're agile. They get past that center. So it's going to be interesting. I also just don't think Josh McDaniels is a good play caller. I think that his inadequacies got covered up for 15 odd years by Tom Brady. And I am not very hopeful going forward. This is a team that brought back the old Bears coach. What was his name? Their new defensive coordinator. I should know this. Big beard, used to be an aerospace engineer, know everything about him. But they brought back a guy who wasn't a good NFL coach and who their defense has been all right with. I just don't think that the Patriots organization is very forward-looking. And a year and a half removed, I think that Tom Brady disguised a lot of inadequacies of Bill Belichick.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. I'd mention
Matt Patricia. Thanks, Eli.
Matt Patricia. There you go. Good job, Eli. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. I'd mentioned it to you yesterday, Dalton. Funny note from this draft guide on Mac Jones. Scouts love his character, but he was arrested and charged with a DUI and having a fake ID in college. So there's that. just wanted to get that note out there because it's a funny sentence.
Speaking of funny, that QB room has Cam Newton, Jared Stidham, and Mac Jones. So you have 2 Auburn quarterbacks and a Alabama quarterback.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about not mentoring the youngin, this is the perfect time for them just to haze the rookie.
Yeah. I don't know. He projects as a high floor guy. So I do think he will have a decent amount of success there, but I think like we've hit already plenty here. The ceiling feels pretty capped to me.
He was the most accurate passer in this draft, according to PFF's grades, which is interesting. I don't know if there's one fantasy player you have to take on the Patriots, who's it going to be, and why is it Jacoby Myers?
I know. I would say Damian Harris.
Really? Not JJ Taylor?
Not JJ Taylor. Yeah, I would say Damian Harris just because the scarcity at running back. And you know what? He was actually like pretty solid to end last year. Like pretty solid to good to end last year, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, I like Damian Harris Watt. I was huge on him at the start of last season. It's just that old Bill Belichick in and out kind of never consistently plays a running back. Eli would have Jonnu Smith. I don't know. That scares me. Do you think talent-wise, Jonnu Smith or Hunter Henry is better?
I think Hunter Henry is better, but I think, like I said, I have more faith in Jonnu being out there week in, week out.
So if you were to profile, you'd probably have Jonnu playing the Y as the primary blocking, Aaron Hernandez tight ending, Hunter Henry at the X, like the Gronk when they played together.
Yeah, probably so. What does that mean for fantasy? Really no idea, because we don't see teams play two fantasy relevant tight ends together very often. And we obviously the Patriots did it. That was a decade ago with arguably the best tight end of all time and a guy who could have been a Hall of Famer if not for, we'll just say, a lot of issues.
Yeah. Second tight end, round 12 or 13. Well, let's just – Zaven Collins went from Tulsa to the Cardinals. Not an interesting pick.
Okay, so while I've got nothing to talk about, I've got to find this note because I've been waiting for a time to bring this nugget up. Oh, where is it at? Did I have it on the tweet list? Maybe it's in my notes. I'm going to find it. It'll be worth it.
So right now, Eli, just so you're aware, in half-point PPR, Jonnu Smith's ADP is around 708, so you're not getting him at 12. Don't forget Nelson. Get out, Noah.
Oh, man.
What are you looking up, Evan?
I'm gonna do a little trivia nugget here. You will not know the answer, but it's more just a funny story or a funny note.
Nelson Aguilar is wide receiver 1. I don't want the wide receiver 1 in England.
I forgot they had Aguilar.
We're not even talking about Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah, I think for good reason. Okay. This is about a receiver, a note in this scouting portfolio. Some NFL scouts have voiced concern that he is more passionate about rapping than football. His stage name is Young Joka. Can you guess which receiver? I'll give you a hint. He has not yet been drafted, but he will be a top 2 round guy.
Okay. This just sounds like a player who I would say is very athletic on the field and has no technical skills. Am I right in that guess?
I'm not going to say yes or no.
Did he play in? Is he an SEC guy?
Keep going.
I feel like this is Kadarius Toney out of Florida.
Yes. Yep. Oh, right on.
Hey, I'm sorry.
That is in his weaknesses category.
I feel like that fits him because his big knock is that he doesn't run the wide receiver routes he's supposed to, and he just does what he wants to do on the field, and he's talented. But yeah, there was another the defensive end out of Miami who played for UCLA and Chip Kelly before. He quit playing college football at UCLA to try to be a rapper as well. So there are 2 potential round 1 prospects who tried their careers at rapping before coming back to the NFL.
Did you see? Is it Isaiah Wilson, the offensive lineman that was in Tennessee, got
the
cut,
first round pick? Yeah,
was in Miami for like
a week.
That's not who we were just talking about, right? Or was it?
No, the other guy is. It's not Russo, but it's the other Miami edge rusher.
Okay. Did you see his like song that came out? Isaiah Wilson. I wish I would have sent it to you. I'm never gonna find it again. But it's like he's singing like you would think a guy that size would be like deep voiced rap, right?
Phillips, you're right, Eli. Yeah. Is he like
it is not that. It is not that.
Oh, we might have to just do a little TikTok with that one here.
Let me see if I can find it. And if I can, I might see if I can play it on here because it is so bad. So the person who tweeted said that he should be thrown in jail for this. And it is bad. This is the 11th player from Nick Saban's Alabama program that Bill Belichick has taken?
That has to be.
Schefter says extending the record for most players taken by a pro college coach combo in the common draft area. So it sounds like it's a record by a lot.
Wow. I mean, they get along. They're both winners in a sense. Let's see. We have the Raiders on the clock here, Evan.
Oh, no. I found it. The question is, can I share with sound? We're going to try.
Oh, you're going to put it on the
I don't think I'm going to get copyrighted for this. Don't think enough people know this exists.
If we get copyrighted.
The question is, okay, can you hear that?
No.
I don't know how to make it so you can hear it.
He goes by GG Bowser.
Apparently.
Oh,
I might have to Google how to share.
I think it's worth it.
How to share screen and audio on StreamYard. Okay, there's a pop-up tab. Try again. Share. Oh, yep, I see it. Oh, I have to share my entire screen. Okay. Can you hear it now?
Oh my. Wait, who tweeted that? Because whoever tweeted it disliked the song. I just want to point that out.
It's so whoever this guy is, but gift sports quote tweeted it, and that's how I saw it.
Oh my god, he should have stuck to football.
That I was, let's just say, I'm sure you were too, very shocked when I heard the pitch of that song for the first time.
So the Raiders selected Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama.
That's a little bit of a reach.
It's a huge reach.
He was a guy who was like, well, the Chiefs could take it 31, but he'll probably go like in the second round.
Yeah.
But it would not be the Raiders.
Raiders gonna Raider.
And the Raiders passed on Jenkins too. And has the kid from Tech, he's still on the board too.
They
right?
passed over Christian Darrisaw.
So they passed over who I think are two better linemen for a guy who did he play last year? He tore his ACL very recently?
No,
last year?
I think you're thinking of the center, aren't you?
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, Landon Dickerson, the center, is who tore his ACL and played the entire SEC game.
Okay. No, this is a good tweet by PFT. He tweeted Alex Leatherwood, simple case of John Gruden falling in love with a last name. I mean, the position makes perfect sense for the Raiders, right? Because they lost multiple offensive linemen off their team last year. And if there's one thing that Derek Carr needs, it is an offensive line that gives him time to basically be in a great situation, play in, play out. He's not going to be able to be a guy who delivers off script. So I get the sentiment. Don't love the pick. I love that the Raiders are the second franchise I've seen called a poverty franchise tonight, and the other one is also in the Chiefs division. But I've seen two different people say that on Twitter about those teams now.
Well, this is the same thing as last year. Last year they needed a defensive end, and they took Max Crosby, he didn't perform as a first-round pick. And the year before that, they took the cornerback who they reached for from Ohio State, which
Terrell. No,
Damon Arnett, isn't it?
Well, last year in the first round, they took Terrell from Clemson, the cornerback.
Oh yeah,
they made
Colin Farrell or whatever.
I think his name's Terrell. They super reached for him.
And then the year before that, they took Damon Arnett, and this year they took Alex. I think they've reached in the last 3 drafts.
I'm trying to see. I could swear that Leatherwood had some kind of injury at some point. Look at this draft guide.
Looking at who's left, do you think Darisaw falls to the Giants and Dave Gettleman is a genius in this draft?
It would definitely work out well. Yeah, I don't see anything about.
Just so you know, Alex Leatherwood in his pre-draft interview said, "Who likes cats? Those are demons." So he's already off your good list.
I think my wife would be more offended by that than me, but
all right.
I see it now because Ian Rappaport quote tweeted and said he's off the Rappaport family board.
Yeah. Oh, and to take a guard at 17 just does not seem like a smart pick.
Well, is he going to play? He was a left tackle his last 2 years at Alabama.
So Mike Clay said his best guess for the Raiders offensive line is Colton Miller at left tackle, Incognito at left guard, Andre James at center, Leatherwood at right guard, and Brandon Parker at right tackle.
Well,
John Gruden Google ADP challenge.
Yeah, for what it's worth, he is listed as a guard on this, and he did play. So he played guard his freshman year. He moved to left tackle. He stepped in for someone who got hurt. Moved to left tackle, but he played left tackle his last 2 years at Alabama. So and he was an offensive tackle coming out of high school. Maybe he could eventually move to tackle at some point down the road.
Now, moving on, Miami got a steal here. They got Jalen Phillips from Miami.
That's not bad.
I think Miami's having a pretty good draft so far. I'm not in love with the Waddle pick, but we already talked about that.
Like I said, Miami was one of the teams with the most to gain with their draft capital. Yeah, they're going to have a lot of talented guys, and this is the time to do it. Don't have to pay your quarterback yet.
Yeah, and I mean, Jalen Phillips, he took a season off for the concussion injury, but before that, he was projected to be a first-round pick. He could be really good.
Mike Golick Jr. tweeted he actually kind of likes Leatherwood, but he says that he doesn't know who was going to take him before the Raiders picked again at 37, which I think is probably pretty accurate.
Oh, my God. Yeah, they took Clelin Ferrell in 2019, Damon Arnett in 2020, and then Leatherwood this year.
Maybe it's the Falcons who took Terrell. Couldn't remember where, but the Falcons reached for him. And I remember people were surprised about that.
So up next, we have Washington. How much longer do you want to stay on? I don't know how many fantasy relevant teams we have drafting coming up.
What pick is Washington?
19.
You know what? At this point, let's stay on until the Steelers pick. Let's see if a running back goes to Pittsburgh, and we can talk about that as it happens.
Do you think it'll be Najee Harris?
I do. If it's a running back, I think it'd be him. Really unfortunate for them that neither Fields or Kyle Pitts dropped the 24. Their beat writers thought that was happening.
Their beat writers, there's something in the water in Pittsburgh. I don't know what it is.
I also want to say the Dolphins might be the fastest at submitting picks, and I love it. They're putting their picks in right away. We're not waiting around for it.
Yeah, Washington.
Dolphins have Ogba, Jalen Phillips, that Van Ginkel guy. They have a pretty good 3.
Yeah, the Dolphins are stacked.
So who do you have going at Washington? Do you think they take Darisaw?
I've seen some people mocking ETN here. I don't like it, but
why would they need ETN?
Well, I think a lot of people are not believers in Antonio Gibson like we are.
I just don't. Even if you're not a huge believer in Gibson, I think they're very similar guys. Why are you taking a guy similar to your running back that you already have in the first round? I blasted them and they haven't even done it. But I do not. I don't get if they were to do that. That would be very dumb.
Oh, it'd be horrible. Noah loves the Dolphin love on this live stream.
This is gonna hurt Eli. Broncos had trade back calls from the Saints at 28. Parentheses too far back, Bears at 20, and Eagles at 12. But Patrick Surtain was the player that they targeted.
Why?
I don't know. Says no doubt that some Mike Zimmer influence when it comes to cornerbacks. Can't have enough. Which is funny because the Vikings had like literally none last year.
From the looks of things, though, with the way the draft's going, there's a good chance Caleb Farley still falls into the 20s, and you might be able to trade up.
Josh Briscoe tweeted, if the Steelers take a running back over Tevin Jenkins, I'm going to be filled with a biblical sort of righteous anger on their behalf.
I want to save it for when they make the pick, but I agree. Their line is in shambles.
It's very bad. Well, you know what helps a bad offensive line? A running back.
I mean, you can't win without a running back. That's how Leonard Fournette led the Bucs to a title.
He did.
Okay, Washington, you have to know where you're going by this point. Pick is in.
What makes sense to me here is either Darisaw or maybe the linebacker from Notre Dame. Not going to try and say his last name. Jeremiah.
JOK?
Yes.
Yeah, both those make sense. If they add to their defense, that's going to be a scary, scary thing. Kwity Payne from Michigan, they want to add another just dominant edge and really get it going.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't know. They brought in Curtis Samuel, which I like, but I'm still not convinced they don't need another receiver. Like, I think Samuel is like fine, but I'm not as high on Samuel, I think, as some people are as a receiver. I think they could still use another receiver. So maybe that's where they go.
Would you go Bateman or Moore here? Or someone else?
Well, I think Bateman's a pure slot. Or Moore's a pure slot, sorry. And Bateman is probably pure outside. I guess it really just depends on because Terry can do it all. It depends on where they prefer to have Terry line up more often than not, honestly. They do have Sims, and I think Bateman would make more sense with that receiver group if I'm picking a receiver there, which I would like. For fantasy, I think for Dynasty especially, that'd be a nice fit if they can ever get a long-term quarterback there. What?
Did they take Jamin Davis?
Yes.
Yeah, he was mocked in a lot of mocks.
Dude, I don't know what's going on with him because like I told you, I saw him on a CBS mock 9 to Denver. I saw him on The Athletic, Nate Taylor, put him at 58 to the Chiefs. That has got to be the widest range for a single prospect in a mock draft in the first 2 rounds and like who knows how long. That's insane.
So after Nate mocked him there, I went and looked up and did a little research. And PFF said that he possesses all of the physical tools to be a good linebacker, and he didn't show any of the technique. But that had he shown the technique, he would have been a top 15 pick in the draft. And so
he just sounds like Willie Gay.
Oh, let's not do that.
Hey, Willie Gay's gonna be good. I'm not saying he's not gonna be good, but he sounds like Willie Gay.
Mike Wright says he's alive because the football team did not choose a running back.
Yeah, Mike is probably the only guy who likes Antonio Gibson more than us, to be completely honest. I didn't realize the buzz for running back there was that strong. I'm glad they didn't take it. It would have made no sense.
Yeah, the buzz was strong, and there was a lot of concern among Washington fans.
If this guy has the physical traits and is able to pan out, I mean, you're just adding another freak to that front seven. It's gonna be if he pans out, that's gonna be a very scary front seven.
Now the question is, Gettleman, you traded down. Darisaw is still available. Do you make the smart move and draft the offensive tackle for your quarterback, or are you going to draft a linebacker position you don't necessarily need?
You know what? Let's bring in Elijah Moore and stick him and Sterling Shepard in the slot. Makes sense.
You know what? Let's draft a running back here. Let's do it. Saquon can't stay healthy. Dave Gettleman, he's going to draft Najee Harris here.
Yeah, it's got to be either Jenkins or I can't for the life of me remember that kid's last name, Darisaw.
Darisaw. You've struggled with
I have.
Darisaw. I actually really like Christian Darisaw, and I thought he was going to go higher. And if the Chiefs hadn't traded for Brown, this would have been prime trade-up territory to get him.
Yep, or Jenkins. I think either of those two guys, which I think one of those two has to be the pick here, which I know Giants fans are probably going to be uninspired by that because they took an offensive lineman so high last year who was not so great and passed up an offensive lineman who was a Pro Bowler last year at the same position.
But you have to, I mean, Nate Solder is your left tackle.
Whichever tackle they pick here, I'm assuming the other one will be better if they pick a tackle.
That's how it works. But you have Nate Solder at tackle who is considering retirement, and he's just not somebody you want at tackle. You definitely need to go. I mean, you have to go tackle here, right?
Yeah, and you know what? Like trading back, and this is the benefit of it. It worked out well because you looked at where they were, and if they would have taken an edge, that would have been a major reach. And there's a gap between the top two offensive linemen, and here and in their mind, they clearly, if they take a tackle here, they clearly think that there's not much of a gap between Slater and either of these two. Or maybe they like one of these two more than Slater. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tevin Jenkins is a good pick. I was going to say this when he was drafted, but I don't know if he'll be around. But he recorded 36 reps on his bench press at his pro day, which is the 98th percentile of all eligible tackles. He is very strong.
Jeez.
And just going through some of the stats.
The thing about all these tackles, they all have short arms. That was like that was the talk on Chiefs Twitter when the Chiefs were in the market for a left tackle because the Chiefs love guys with long arms. So it was like, none of them really fit the profile.
Well, and they talked about this on Establish the Run, which was something that I thought was interesting. But this year there were, I think, a record projection for offensive tackles to go in the first round. And I think it was Evan Silva who said the reason offensive tackles are rated so highly this year is because you can judge them based on their pro days a lot easier than some of these other players who didn't have a lot of tape because of the COVID season. So some of these guys might be inflated just because we had a shortened season and you didn't get to see the full arsenal of some of the players in the draft this year.
Yep. No, that's very possible for sure. And there are just a lot of offensive tackle, almost no D tackle. I think that's the other thing. It's like you're really seeing the lack of defensive line talent show up with all the O linemen being discussed. At this point.
Now,
oh my God!
Did the Giants giant?
Just wait. They took young Jaka.
No, they did not. They took Kadarius Toney.
That's what this Connor Hughes says. I haven't seen anywhere else yet.
I've seen Jake Seeley retweeted it. I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, so we let I'm gonna wait until I see Schefter. Well, Peter Schrager tweeted it's one of his favorite players.
Yeah, to a good team with a coaching staff that can coach him up.
Giants.
I mean, what do you have to say about this?
Well,
you're a Giants fan, so
not really. I'm still waiting to see somebody else say it's official.
Do you think there was a little talk to some of the reporters about not spoiling who's going where this season?
Well, I think the only place that would care about that is ESPN, since they have the draft. It's like with basketball, and that's why Woj has to like come up with the creative wording to break the draft. Like I can't imagine like NFL Network would care about. I mean, I guess they have the draft. I don't know. Maybe there is. I don't know, but yep. Okay. PFF's tweeted it. Is it actually happened on TV yet? Here it is. Yep. They just took him. Okay. So I have very real concerns that this is just a gadget player. I could be wrong. He's very good after the catch. He's a great athlete, extremely fast, but he is a less refined Jalen Waddle, basically. Like he's very fast, not a good route runner. People obviously question his love for football a little bit with I joke about the rap nickname stuff, but that goes along with people just kind of questioning his commitment to football a little bit. There are some off the field concerns with him. He has gotten in trouble like twice with, I don't want to say anything specific, I don't have it in front of me, but like gun related things, like possession of like an unlicensed gun. And so there's a little bit of that going on, and he wasn't like overly productive in college either. So you're taking a leap on speed, which, you know what, it's not the worst thing you can do, but given what they need and what they have, I don't know. I think they would have been better served addressing the offensive line.
So is this the fastest wide receiver core in the NFL? Darius Slayton, Kadarius Toney, and John Ross are all on the same team.
Well, I don't know if you can really consider John Ross like part of the receiving core.
Let me rephrase this. Is Kadarius Toney's player comp John Ross?
Oh my God. No. Did you see what Noah put?
He has a Joka chain. Oh.
Young Joka.
So we're 20 picks into the draft. What, in your opinion, has been the worst pick?
I mean, this one is in the conversation.
Can you pull up the big board just so we can look at it while we do this?
Yeah, sure. This one's in the conversation. I would have to put the Raiders in the conversation for taking a guy that everyone seemed to think would be there when they pick again at 37.
Can we just take the Raiders out of consideration when we talk about this?
I think Surtain at 9, given the fact that we know they could have traded, that the Broncos could, based on this guy's reporting out of Denver, could have traded back to 28, which is too far back for the Broncos, is what they said. But like 20 to the Bears, they could have traded back to 20. And there hasn't been a third cornerback go. They could have taken a third cornerback.
Worst pick. Evan picking Dalton to do a podcast with him. Thanks,
Wait,
Noah.
Does Noah just have 2 different accounts that he's on here on?
That's Eli's brother.
Oh, what's up, Noah?
I just want to get this in real quick. Matt Harmon just tweeted his reception perception for Kadarius Toney. The good, he broke tackles at a high 19.6% of his in-face attempts. The bad, he had a 13 percentile success rate first man coverage and was in the first percentile against press coverage. Which,
yeah,
literally,
I mean that screams gadget player.
Yeah. Eli asked, "What's the most regular, safest pick?"
It's got to be Sewell going 7 to the Lions. The top quarterbacks outside of Fields are gone. You assume they probably were going to give Goff a shot this year, so they weren't going to take Fields, I don't think. And then past that, you can take a receiver, but yeah, I think Sewell is a pretty surefire, if not Pro Bowler. He is at least locked in as their starting left tackle for the foreseeable future. I think he's a very good prospect.
Yeah. Eli says Zaven Collins is the safest pick or the worst pick. Eli, you want to justify that? I will say it's interesting. We didn't really talk much about it, but Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons are 2 players who kind of play without a real position, playing the linebacking. And we talked a little bit about it last season, but the Cardinals used some zero blitzes with Isaiah Simmons coming off the edge that were really interesting in the second half of the season. I wonder if Zaven Collins could get in the same packages and his blitz rate could really go through the roof. For anybody who plays IDPs, might be a deep pick.
Yep, that does not include me. Not an IDP man.
God. So, I mean, with this Tony pick, all of the smoke about Devontae Smith to the Giants was pretty sure, right?
So, yep, seems like it's true. Seems like they got trade in front of, and we're like, okay, we're going to trade down and get another receiver. And
Eli,
that's
you
what
think
happened.
The safest pick was Zaven Collins. I don't know if I agree with that. But I'm not going to argue with you since you can only type. Feel like it would be an unfair argument.
Noah Breezy, tell us what you think of Jace Horn to the Panthers.
I feel like it was kind of a horny pick.
Wow.
I had to get it out. I'm sorry.
You can tell we've been on for 2 hours and 35 minutes when jokes like that start coming out.
It's absolutely absurd that the first round of the NFL draft takes this long. You're white screening us again, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
So we have the Colts on the board. You think they take a tackle to replace their left tackle? For once, I agree with Dalton. I also think the Ravens jump to the top of the AFC soon with the next 2 picks. They're better takes, Eli.
Well, I'm a little surprised I'm kind of with you, Noah. They should have traded back. I'm a little surprised the Ravens. I think everyone thought, I mean, I guess they still could trade up a little bit, but I thought they could have really traded up a ways with 2 first-round picks plus, offer something else and move up. And, I mean, I don't know. I guess trading clear up to 10 is going to be tough, but to get Devontae Smith, I just don't. They need a receiver that moves the needle, and I like some of the guys at the end of the first round, but I'm not sure those are the type of receiver that come in and move the needle for him too much.
I mean, out of the remaining receivers, I think Terrence Marshall would be the guy who might move the needle, but I also already saw that they'd cooled on him and that they weren't interested in him.
Terrence Marshall, great contested catch guy.
I mean, at this point in the draft, I do think Elijah Moore falls to the Titans, which is probably an ideal landing spot.
Yeah, I'll be if he falls past that. A little Chiefs trade up action.
You think the Chiefs should trade up to draft Elijah Moore?
No, but Elijah Moore would be a good fit on the Chiefs. No, I don't think the Chiefs should trade up.
I think any wide receiver would be a good fit on the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes is there, but even Kadarius.
If there's we basically have a little bit of a better version, a more proven version of that already.
So the Colts went ahead and took Kwity Paye out of Michigan.
Man.
Which, I mean, that's an okay pick, but who's going to play left tackle?
I'm surprised those tackles are both falling.
I know. It seems to me like if the Chiefs had kept their pick, one would have fallen to them at this point.
Yeah, but I don't know if any of those tackles that are falling are like day one starters, which is what they basically had to have. So I still think they made the right move. But yeah, there are going to be tackles available later than we maybe thought.
I mean, Darisaw, I'm surprised he's still falling. That's the one that I can't believe. So maybe Darisaw falls to the Vikings. They need tackle help. God, if he falls all the way to Jacksonville and they can get Darisaw, that would be a very, very good pick.
Yeah.
All right, so we're at the Titans. Do you think they have to go wide receiver?
I mean, I don't know if I can name another receiver on their team besides A.J. Brown at the moment.
They got Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, I think they should go receiver. And probably, like you said, probably Elijah Moore more naturally fits what you'd need, because like AJ Brown's like prototypical outside guy.
If they don't take receiver here, how high would you draft AJ Brown, considering he's the only target on that team?
See, I never liked that. I never liked that argument.
I do actually agree with Noah. Oh, we're putting Noah's comment down at the bottom. I love it. No, I do agree with Noah, though. Pro Bowl tackle versus uncertain tackle. He is right. The Chiefs did do the right thing, and it was a great trade. And I can't wait for the Ravens to take the uncertain tackle of the future, and Lamar Jackson runs for his life.
I don't think the Ravens are taking a tackle. I could be wrong. The Ravens. I don't think the Ravens are taking a tackle.
Yeah, what do you think they go for? Wide receiver and edge?
Yeah, I mean they brought in Villanueva. That was their plan. It seems like to play cheap at right tackle. Maybe one of those guys dropped further than they thought, and they go for a little depth there. But
did you know Kwity Paye has an NFT that he's selling?
Dude, everybody has NFTs now. It's hard to keep track.
That's pretty smart. I don't know. What do you feel?
Since we're on topic,
the Colts.
Is there anything on that team that gets you excited outside of Jonathan Taylor for fantasy purposes?
I'm a little excited for God. You can tell I really haven't talked about football much lately. What was the name of their rookie receiver?
Michael Pittman. I love Michael Pittman.
I'm excited for Pittman this year, but outside of Pittman, nothing really. So Jonathan Taylor, you're excited, and then Pittman is a guy who I think a lot of people are going to forecast as taking a leap this year, even with Ty back, because Ty went back to the Colts, right? I'm not imagining that.
Ty signed a 1 or 2 year deal.
I think that probably helps get Pittman on my team, if anything, because I think the Pittman hype would have gotten really out of control with no Ty. So he at least doesn't have he's the only guy argument working for him right now. I don't know, man. I'm real curious to see what Carson Wentz looks like there. Really curious.
I would have thought they would have went tackle here and put someone at left tackle for him, because whoever you put at left tackle is going to have an easier job because Quentin Nelson is right next to them, and that's just going to benefit any player. But I would have seen Carson Wentz with a bad offensive line and seeing Carson Wentz with a good offensive line really makes you think that he should be playing with a good one. And Frank Reich was his coach when he had a good offensive line. He was his OC. So you think he would understand that.
Nate Taylor does make the point. If the Colts don't take a tackle in the second round, they could be a landing spot for Eric Fisher.
I hate that because, like I've talked about with you, I still want him to come back to the Chiefs on a 1-year deal and play right tackle.
I think that does make sense. Well, Mitchell Schwartz said he is open to coming back. So I don't know who I'd take between Schwartz and Fisher personally.
Eli says Trey Burton breakout year.
I think that's a very crowded wide receiver room in general.
I also think if they don't draft a left tackle in the second round,
Mo Alley Cox is going to be in a lot of pass blocking schemes, and they're going to run 6 up front with Mo Alley Cox as the blocking tight end.
That's my take on that.
If you are drafting and you have to draft a giant receiver not named our boy,
the one and only,
forgot his name,
Kenny
Galladay. Who are you taking? Shepard, Slayton, or Tony, or John Ross?
I guess I'm probably taking Shepard because he's the one that, out of you have Kenny, who's his own beast, but of the others, he's the one with the kind of differentiator skill set where it's Tony and Slayton, and if you want to throw John Ross in there, those are speed guys, right? Those are your deep threats. Tim Tebow breakout. Okay.
Oh my God.
Those are your deep threats. Whereas I think Sterling Shepard's role is locked in as the slot guy. The issue with him is always health, because I think he's a talented guy. He produces when he is healthy. It's just health. So if I'm picking one guy like in the mid to late rounds, probably, I don't know, like 11th round ish, like 10th round ish would be my guess, is where you might have to take those guys. I'd have to look at ADP. I would probably say Sterling Shepard. What about you?
I think I would take Darius Slayton, and the only reason I'm doing that is because he would only be started in a panic Monday night scenario. I need 30 points, and Sterling Shepard or not Sterling Shepard. Darius Slayton is capable of that. Right now, Sterling Shepard's ADP is in the 11th round.
Wow, there we go. What's Slayton?
Let's look.
I'm gonna guess Slayton is higher than that.
I think Slayton will drop more though, as a result.
I'll say Slayton's like in the 8th round right now.
Let's see. Right now we have Slayton going. Oh no, Slayton's going at 13-10.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
I actually kind of agree with that, but I'm a little surprised.
I think he'll take the bigger hit. He'll probably go undrafted in most leagues as a result of Tony. I think Tony's skill set probably fits worse. Eli says Slayton for sure as well. God, there are some teams with some crowded wide receiver rooms this year that I just don't want to look at.
Yeah, well, we mentioned it earlier. The Bengals with bring Chase in, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd are definitely one. The Titans, are they going to draft? Nope, they go cornerback Caleb Farley.
Love the pick, actually. I love the player.
Top 10 talent, but has back surgeries that worried teams, Schefter says.
And then,
God, A.J. Brown is going to get 180 targets.
Changed my mind.
Well, we'll see. But I would hope that I would hope they'll go receiver in round 2. That'd be my guess.
So now it can be told. After acquiring Teddy Bridgewater yesterday, George Patton cooled on QBs for the 9th pick. Didn't give up on Drew Lock's potential. Bridgewater is a leader/mentor for a still young offense. Should be a true QB competition in OTAs.
Yeah, it'll be a competition, and that's because both the QBs are not that good.
The Cardinals were such a smart team. They had one season of Josh Rosen and said, we've seen enough. We're moving on. We're taking Kyler Murray.
And the Broncos have stuck with a horrible player. And Eli does not want the Saints to take a corner unless they trade back slightly and get Asante Samuel Jr. It's not bad. I've seen a lot of mocks having Asante go into Tampa Bay. So
yeah,
wouldn't be able to go too far back. And
yeah, either Tampa Bay. I've seen them getting Samuel. I've also seen them taking the Stanford quarterback a lot.
Janoris Jenkins and Caleb Farley, though, is a pretty good 1-2. And then Christian Fulton's number 3. That's a pretty good cornerback in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Noah's calling Owusu to the Vikings. Well, it's not a bad pick. I really think Darisaw has to go here. Is there something that we have missed with Darisaw?
Or Jenkins. He's still on the board too.
Or Jenkins. But I mean, oof. Which Noah? Grant, you know what you didn't say. Oh, man.
Okay, so listen here. There is a high potential that Darisaw, who is some people's number 1 tackle, falls to the Steelers. Do the Steelers draft a running back?
Whose number 1 tackle was he, though? I mean, I think everyone had.
Well, I saw some people put Slater over Sewell as well.
Man, I think Sewell's no brainer top tackle, but okay, go on.
You just hate small arms. But
Erickson at PFF had Darisaw as his number 1.
Okay.
Oh man, Najee Harris's story is so good.
You mean how he came to KU for Junior Day?
I did not know he did that.
He and Jamar Chase both on campus the same day.
Well, I was going to say
Jamar Chase actually was committed.
Once Jack, always a Jayhawk. Love having the first wide receiver off the board.
I told podcast producer Johnny earlier today, this draft guide that I've been looking at, it doesn't mention KU as one of the, because Chase was committed to multiple schools. Like I think he was committed to Florida at one point too, and decommitted from there before LSU. And KU wasn't mentioned. I was like, I at least want KU to get credit for being one of his schools. All these people need to give KU a little bit of credit where they can.
Noah wants to point out Darrisaw's not his number one tackle either. Really respect that, Noah. If we're curious, let's go here real quick.
I'm just gonna pop this up to get that headshot up there. That's a professionally done photo.
Man, look at that. In Noah's mock draft, he did not have Darrisaw going in the top 16, so he's kind of on par here.
Wait, Noah did a mock draft. He sent to you.
He did. He had Lawrence going first, followed by Wilson. Then he had Fields going to the Niners, so we're already off. Pitts at 4. Then he had Sewell at 5, so another one off. 6 was Chase. Then he had some team trading up for Lance. Then he had Slater. Then he had J.C. Horn going 9 to the Saints, so he was close on where he went.
Wow, he had the Saints trade up. I think Eli had some sway in that mock draft.
Yeah. I mean, he did have Mac Jones going to the Patriots. There were some things that were good here, Noah. He had Vera Tucker going all the way at 16, though, so I don't think his offensive line.
Vera Tucker went 14. What do you mean all the way at 16?
Oh. Okay. I hate Tampa Bay and I hate Tom Brady, but they're so good at social media. They tweeted, "So how's everyone passing the time?"
Come on, Vikings. I just want to get to the Steelers. And I guess I thought I forgot the Jets trade up. So they're not gonna be an ETN around here. Noah's mock was fraudulent.
I didn't see a mock from you though, Eli. Quiddy Payne had a Black Panther suit on. That's really, really dope. All right, so if Darrisaw's at 24, do you take Najee Harris for the Steelers?
No, no. I would take whichever tackle doesn't go. But it seems like they like Harris a lot. I'd be shocked based on all of the pre-draft reporting if that's not who goes there.
How much time is left on the clock for the Vikings? Oh, their pick is in.
I was gonna say I think there's not commercial right now.
George Kittle has named Trey Lance Trey Bebe. So
I will say if the one good thing about the Steelers going with Najee Harris, if they do, is I don't have to listen to people try and tell me that Kalen Ballage is going to be a thing in Pittsburgh. I don't think if Najee Harris goes there.
Well, nobody should be a thing in Pittsburgh at this point with that offensive line. And the fact that Big Ben can't turn around and do play action. Oh, they took Darrisaw.
They did?
Yep. It's
Good
a good
pick.
Cam Jordan on talking about Kyle Pitts. He's a little light to be a tight end as long as he's detached from the line and not attached to the line, because then I have to detach him from his body.
I was going to say, but we never really got around to it. His only weaknesses are to do with physicality and blocking, which for fantasy I do not care about. Don't think the Falcons are going to care about that either.
Yeah, that's like running Travis Kelce and blocking schemes. It's just a waste.
Yep.
All right. This is the pick. Will a running back go in the top 24? And will it be Najee Harris?
Did Johnny place a bet on Najee Harris's draft position? I know he was thinking about it.
I don't know. He didn't talk to me if he did. Okay. Since we're on running back and we're pretty sure the Steelers are taking one, who is if you're going to rank, the top 4 or 5 running backs in this draft, how do you rank them?
Vikings low-key killing this, Eli says.
It was a smart trade down to get a really good tackle at 23.
Yeah. I would probably go with is it Javonte Williams, North Carolina kid, Javonte Williams?
Yep.
I would go with him number one. I think I would go Najee 2 and Sermon 3, but it's really close between those two, whereas I don't think a lot of people have it that way. And then ETN is probably 4, and probably a pretty distant 4, because I think there are definite concerns with him as a between the tackles guy. I think he's going to be a good receiving back, but as far as like being like an every down guy, a guy you can trust between the tackles, I don't think the vision is really there, and he's just never really hasn't really been what he's had to do consistently at Clemson.
Do you have somebody at 5 then, or those just? I know pretty much it's top 4, and there's a big fall off.
Yeah, I don't really know if anyone else is like too. Anybody past, well, even ETN to a certain is probably a for sure second guy or like a part of a committee. I don't really know who I'd have at 5. I will say, and this is maybe a little bit KU bias, but one guy I do like a lot late is Khalil Herbert. Well, I like Puka too, but I like Khalil Herbert.
I will say that Javonte Williams kid, the other running back out of North Carolina, has gotten some pretty good. And the Steelers did it.
They did.
They drafted Najee Harris.
It's on Twitter.
Yeah, PFF tweeted it.
Yep. Okay. So let's talk about them. Najee Harris to the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do we think his fantasy value? Because let's look at the other guys in the room. You have Kalen Ballage, you have Benny Snell, and you had Jalen Samuels. So you don't really have and you have Anthony McFarland. So you don't really have an NFL starting running back in the room. So you would have to think the guy they take in the first round, that's their starting running back, maybe even their workhorse running back. We know the concerns with the offensive line. We know the concerns with the offense as a whole, frankly, just with Big Ben and how much they really fell off at the end of last season. If you had the ballpark it, where would you rank Najee Harris today?
Probably running back 15 or 16. My concern is the line, and play action usually does really well for running backs. If you can set the play action up, the running backs generally get better yards per carry. And the issue is this version of Big Ben we have is scared to turn around. He doesn't want to put his back, and we saw it all last season. He doesn't want to put his back to the defense. And what we do know is Mike Tomlin is one of the few coaches left in the NFL who wants bell cow backs. He wants to run one guy. I mean, he tried to run James Conner into the ground despite James Conner being inefficient. And before that, he had Le'Veon Bell for how many years? And one thing a lot of people did comp before the Steelers smoke was Najee Harris looked similar to Le'Veon Bell. They're both 6 foot, about 230. They have very similar body compositions, and they're very good cutbacks. The thing and the big difference and the big thing holding me back from ranking him higher is this offensive line. Is Le'Veon Bell could wait behind the offensive line. Najee Harris is not going to get that.
Well, and I think the other big difference is Bell had elite vision. I think one of the knocks on Harris is that he likes for a guy his size, he doesn't run through contact like you think, like consistently. And he likes to bounce it to the outside a lot and just try and outrun you to the edge. So if you've got him at 15 or 16, so let's look at this here. I'm just looking at Fantasy Pros average rank right now. Let's play a little name game with some of these guys in the range real quick. So DeAndre Swift is the 15 right now. Najee Harris or DeAndre Swift?
Oh, easily DeAndre Swift.
James Robinson or DeAndre Swift?
RB1, son.
J.K. Dobbins, or I said DeAndre Swift, but I meant Najee Harris earlier. And J.K. Dobbins or Najee Harris?
J.K. Dobbins.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Najee Harris?
We know where I stand on that one.
Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Chris Carson or Najee?
Oh, Chris Carson. I mean, they lost all of the guys behind him in Seattle.
Okay, Josh Jacobs or Najee?
Okay. Well, I hate them both. I mean, Josh Jacobs. I just pray Kenyon Drake gets hurt, I guess, and take Josh Jacobs. That's horrible, but
I would take Jacobs, and I think I would take everybody else that's already in front as well, and like other guys higher up, Miles Sanders, James Robinson, Eli, to answer your question over Najee for both of us.
Yeah, I call him James RB1 son now. For your information.
I like the guys next on the list where I think I actually would take Najee. I would take him over David Montgomery. I would take him over Melvin Gordon. I'm not sure about Kareem Hunt. So he's basically right there in the like 20 to 23 range for both of us.
Yeah. And I kind of like Melvin Gordon better right now, if I'm being honest, from just you mentioning him.
Yeah.
Who else is behind him?
Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, Myles Gaskin.
In a PPR, I might do Chase Edmonds.
I would go Najee over Edmonds.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably gonna avoid. Well, it's tough, but depending on where he goes and the hype around him, I'm probably gonna end up avoiding Najee.
It's pretty easy to paint the picture of the hype getting out of control for him because he's an Alabama kid. Everyone's gonna make the Derrick Henry comps because he's big and he's fast, and he's gonna get volume. We think because the Steelers don't really have anybody else who we think is a very good NFL running back. So yeah, I think his ADP is going to be higher than I want to pay. A couple more things. We'll just 2 quick questions before we get out of here. First, who benefited the most from a fantasy standpoint of these top 24 picks? It can be any of these guys taken, or if you like have another guy on one of those teams in mind that benefited as a result of a pick.
Can you scroll up so I can see the full board?
1 second.
Let's see here. Who benefited the most from a fantasy standpoint?
Yep.
I really wish the Jaguars pick was in because I would say RB1 son again.
You know who I'm going to say? I'm going to say Herbert because I love getting Slater on that offensive line. And given they added Lindsley, they're going to have a very good offensive line. He's already got the weapons. I think Herbert, to me, I know we had the Dak argument the other day. I think Herbert, to me, is going to be pushing Dak for that kind of like QB6, QB5 area in my rankings in a couple months.
Yeah, we will have several debates about Dak being way better than Herbert. But until then, I'm actually going to go with TJ Hawkinson here. The Lions didn't get a wide receiver, and the wide receiver core in Detroit is Quintez Cephas and Brashad Perriman. So there's really nobody there to catch the ball outside of TJ Hawkinson. So I think he's the winner so far. But if I'm cheating here and not picking somebody who's drafted, I would probably say Devonta Smith.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're gonna make me pick a guy who's drafted, it's Devonta Smith for me as well, and then probably by extension the quarterback there, right? I mean, you've got to feel better about the quarterback, assuming it's who we think it is, right?
Well, Jalen Hurts, I think, as long as
assuming he wins the job, like they're saying some funky things out there, but.
Yeah, well, at least they don't know if he's going to be dead on Sunday or not.
That's true.
Shanahan. But, I mean, I think he's a top 8 if he starts with his rushing upside. I really like him. And now they have another weapon to pair with him. I think Zach Ertz should go away and Goddard should take over, and then they have 2 pretty good receiving weapons. And then you throw Jalen Reagor at the outside, and we see if a non-injury marred season, and you kind of have a good team put together.
Yep, Reagor could be a nice post-type sleeper because he got some love last year, then got hurt. But if he wouldn't have got hurt, he would have probably been a decently high draft pick clear up until week 1.
Yeah. So I think we're in agreement out of the guys drafted. Devonta Smith. Noah thinks it was Jamar Chase. I just think that's a crowded wide receiver room. He gets his QB back, and there's going to be, they're going to work well together. But the issue I still think is Cincinnati's missing some offensive line help. And if Burrow's getting pressured, the deep ball's not there. And that's where him and Jamar Chase excelled.
Okay. So any of these rookies, I guess it can be the same as the first question where we have it be anybody on these teams as a result of these guys. Who's hurt the most based on where any of these guys landed tonight so far?
every single skill position player for the Denver Broncos.
That's fair. That's fair, but I'm also not surprised they walk away with no quarterback. I think I would probably I would maybe say Waddle. I think he's going to be good long term in Miami. I think he'll even be okay this year, but I think he could have ended up in a less crowded situation if I don't know if he falls to if he goes to Philadelphia, or even if he goes to the Giants. I think the Giants other guys, like the Dolphins, have more quality receiver depth. I think.
I have a new who got hurt the most from their fantasy landing spot.
Who?
And it's James RB1 son, because the Jaguars just drafted Travis Etienne.
Oh, okay. Let's stick on real quick. Eli said Tootie from Florida. I get you, Eli. I definitely think his value is hurt by that, but also I didn't have super high hopes for him next year anyway, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So that's part of my logic there. But I definitely understand if for people who do like him a lot.
God, what a horrible pick by Jacksonville.
Okay, well, let's talk about then. What does that do to James Robinson? Last thing before we sign off.
Well, everybody's talked about it before. This regime didn't draft James Robinson. They didn't use him. Trent Balkman, when he was the 49ers GM, and he's now the GM for the Jaguars, drafted a running back every year. He was with the GM. He was there. And, I mean, Urban Meyer is a football guy, quote-unquote football guy. And despite what James Robinson did on the field, he was an undrafted free agent, and I think unfairly that's hanging over his head. And at the very least, Etienne is going to take some receiving work.
That's what I was going to say is kind of underrated was the fact that Robinson was really good in the passing game. He pretty much every week it was 3 or 4 receptions, it felt like, and not saying that's going to go away, but he definitely has competition that didn't exist before. Because like I said, I think Etienne has some real questions as far as it comes to running between the tackles, but as far as just like a receiving back and a pure playmaker, because he is very fast, very athletic. I think he's probably a better receiving back than Robinson, quite frankly.
He could be. I mean, it's just not a smart move in my opinion, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna say drafting a running back in round 1 is a smart move. Even when the Chiefs did it last year, I was kind of like, well,
yeah,
well, I hope it works out.
The Chiefs thought it was Noah. Please delete Noah's comment.
I'm gonna put user in timeout.
He's blocked for 5 minutes. It's a bad pick. Plain and simple. James Robinson was legit a producer. I agree with Eli. I'm legit sad for James Robinson too. Mm-hmm. It's just for the Jalen Ramsey pick. Here's what the Jaguars got back: Calais Von Chasson and Travis Etienne, and a 4th round in this year's draft. So it sounds like the Rams actually won that trade, despite. Yeah, I just don't like it.
Noah does make the point that Trevor Lawrence does get his guy back, which I didn't really even put that together. Gets ETN back, so you have that connection already there.
Who's older, Saquon Barkley or Travis Etienne?
It's got to be Barkley.
Barkley is 24.
ETN was only, I think, a junior. He still had another year. Well, maybe he was a senior.
I think he was a redshirt senior. I could be wrong. No, Etienne's 22. Still, I mean, he's very old for a rookie running back to be 22. He was born in January, so he'll be 23 at the end of the season. I don't know. We talked about this. I don't think Etienne was even in the top 3. You agreed. I mean, Javonte Williams would have been exciting in Jacksonville, but
I will say though, if you're just from a pure football standpoint, if you're gonna pick, if you think, let's put it this way, it could be worse for Robinson. I think if they would have gone with the North Carolina kid who is like a pure power back, it's like, oh, is he like gonna just cut into Robinson's like entire workload? Whereas like I really don't think you're gonna see ETN get more than like 5 carries most games, at least as a rookie. I think it's gonna take him some serious time to figure out the running schemes in the NFL.
Well, and that's probably the last thing I did want to talk about. ETN ran in a gap scheme at Clemson, and gap schemes just have been shown not to work in the NFL. They're not an efficient way to run. Zone schemes, aka the way Kyle Shanahan runs the game, has been way more efficient. So ETN is going to have some adjustment there. But even then, you never want a guy who just runs the ball in fantasy unless it's Derrick Henry. And James Robinson's not going to get Derrick Henry-esque work. I will say the Falcons haven't drafted a running back yet, and 2 are off the board now. Mike Davis might be a legit thing with Arthur Smith.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Eli makes the point here, wondering about a Shenault role change. Yeah, I think a running back who is catching around the line of scrimmage could maybe hurt Shenault a little bit, because he's kind of a running back who plays receiver almost with the way that he's used. So it's possible. But Robinson also caught a lot of passes. I have to laugh at Noah, 22. He's a geezer. I think Josh Jacobs was like 20 when he got drafted. So I guess compared to Josh Jacobs, I think they might be like the same age right now.
Yeah, close to at least.
I think Jacobs is 23. But all right, Dalton, unless you have anything else to add, I think at 3 hours and 10 minutes, we are ready to pour one out for James Robinson and pour one out for ourselves for being on here for so long.
What a way. I went from James RB1 son to just sadness. This is not the way I wanted to end the live stream.
We will definitely talk more about the Jaguars situation, as it's probably now emerged as one of the more interesting fantasy conversations next time we talk on the podcast. Thank you to Noah and Eli for being in and out and in the chat a lot tonight. For any of you who were in and out as well, thank you guys, and we'll talk to you again on the podcast next week.